Welcome everyone to the Brahma Strike Back podcast. I am BX Sports Jedi Network, Kev, and I'm here with Z from A to Z Media. What's up, Z?
Not much, man. Ready to talk about this crazy free agent frenzy that we have on our hands for the Major League Baseball Association, and I'm glad to be here and hope you're doing well.
I'm doing very well. First, I want to salute that AB was in the building. What's up, AB? Lamario Owens. What's up, Lamario? I'm glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. And of course, the first lady of the BI Sports Jedi Network, Maria. What's going on, Maria? I hope you're doing well, my friend. It's great to see you here. Robert Parr in the building. All right, Robert Parr. I'm glad to see you. Put a smile on my face. Seeing you there. I hope you're doing well. I hope you didn't drink all the coquito and or they make you some more for this upcoming weekend. So salute to Robert Parr in the building. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's go. We're not gonna, what can we say about our New York Yankees? We haven't done anything. The New York Yankees have been quiet. As a pistol, they did sign all their players that were, you know, arbitrational, and they gave them all contracts. That means Gary Sanchez, the Kraken, will be returning to the Bronx, or maybe he could be given the arbitration contract and maybe shipped off on the trade, but we don't know. But Z, what's your thoughts about the inactivity of the Bronx Bombers right now?
Well, we did do some things. We let go Corey Kluber. We let go of Clint Frazier. Um, Andrew Velasquez. I mean, Tyler Wade. There's guys that we're cutting ties with that honestly have helped this team. As far as Velasquez and Wade. Robert Parr, what's
That was
going
a
on,
good
man?
one.
Hope
That
you're doing
was a
well.
good one.
And of course, to the rest of the chat, Maria and everybody involved, thanks for joining in, and thanks for giving my guy always the support as always. But yeah, just we fell short in the wild card game. So obviously we're not championship material, right? Like we have things we need to do, holes we need to fill, steps we need to take, and all they did was take steps back. Um, very disappointing, very, very disappointing. But the rest of the league doesn't seem to get the Yankees memo because they're doing the exact opposite of what the Yankees are doing.
Right, but and you know what? In a silver lining, and I know that Yankee fans, we don't want to hear the silver lining, but the American League Eastern, the whole division, they're losing players. They got a little weaker. Let's start off with Toronto. We saw Simeon no longer going to be playing in Toronto no more. He's now a Texas Ranger, signing one of the big shortstops off the board. Although we thought it was going to be a shortstop, he ended up going to the Texas Rangers. And later, behold, instead of shortstop, he's only playing second base. In a weird move, in a surprising move for that. We'll elaborate and get back on that one. But also, the Blue Jays also lost their Cy Young Award winner. Robbie Ray signs with the Seattle Mariners. So you're taking implicate parts of the Toronto Blue Jays off that team that was really scary. They signed Kevin Guzman back. From San Francisco, signed with Toronto. Addition by subtraction. Do you think? I don't think Kevin Guzman's going to come near and close for a Cy Young performance. Z.
Yeah, Robbie Ray's a huge loss. He did extremely well for them last year, and while Gosman had a good year with the Giants, as the Giants had a good season, just an entirety of the team. The familiarity with him's there, but I don't understand it. I mean, you could always have kept Robbie Ray, at least throwing him a deal, and then also throwing Gosman a deal. Try to get them both, but they're definitely hurting losing Simeon. And what's funny about that Simeon signing is he wanted to play shortstop again, and that was the rumors as to why he was leaving. He might be leaving Toronto, but then he signed to play second baseman anyway. So what was the motivation behind that? Letting him go if he was going to play second base anyway? Doesn't make any
Well,
sense.
well, I guess it's the state taxes. That lucrative deal that he got in Texas. For that kind of money, you like, what? I'll move to second. I'll stay. You know what? I like second base last year. I had the most home runs that's for a second baseman record and so forth, and all the accolades that got him that contract.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what? More money to me
Oh
to
yeah,
go into Texas.
I understand. I understand his side of it. I just don't understand Toronto's. Like Toronto should have at least thrown him an offer if that's what if he was okay with playing second base with the money. But it is what it is. The Rangers definitely got better this offseason.
the Rangers got extremely better. And then about 24 hours later, they signed, Correa.
Yeah,
They
it's a
took him in there.
huge deal.
Wow, that was wow. That was the wow factor there.
Hmm.
They like. I'm like, hello, is that the Yankees signing players? Or is that
Right,
no? It's the Rangers. Wow.
right. And yeah, obviously one of the best young players in baseball. Great shortstop for the Dodgers for a couple of years here. Championship experience, World Series champion. Brings a lot to that ball club. But they definitely became one of the nastiest middle infields in all of baseball with those two on both sides. Offensively and defensively. And then, of course, not to jump the gun, but they added Clayton Kershaw, so they got some starting pitching help. So
Oh,
far, they get
that deal, that deal is not done yet. Does that
oh
the Claw Sharp deal? They're heavy favorites. No, it hasn't been done yet. They're close. They're close. They're
my
close.
fault. I jumped the
No,
gun.
no, no, no. You're John Heyman said they're very close to it. So I'm refreshing the tweets. Although a sad black eye here with that. If nothing gets done this evening, the collective bargaining agreement expires this evening at midnight, and looks like they're going to be the lockout. And until that gets resolved, no teams could sign anyone. They can't do anything whatsoever. That's why you saw a plethora of teams signing arbitration already players because they don't know how long this bargaining agreement is going to be, what's going on, and so forth, transactional moves. But he's really one of the favorites. If, maybe looks by the midnight hour, you could see even maybe Correa might come off. There's a lot of traction right now that Boston is thinking about, is close to re-signing Schwarber back there again. So there was thoughts of Anthony Rizzo going to Boston, but it looks like Schwarber, it might be they want to swoop in there. You also saw, not just before we got on the air, not about an hour, Marcus Stroman signs with the Chicago Cubs, and just now he leaves New York and into the Windy City.
Yeah, and then of course they had to let somebody go considering they added a monster in Max Scherzer. So in New York, so I'm thinking they're probably all right with letting go of Marcus Stroman. But
Right,
good pickup for Chicago. They needed more starting pitching, so he hasn't been his career hasn't been what his talent level says it should be. But he's still young, so he could definitely right the ship there in Chicago and become what everybody hoped he would be
right,
um,
right.
in
Eh,
Toronto.
Correct. And also, we'll stay in the American League East and we'll move over around. And we saw those deficiencies on the Blue Jays who they lost. Then we go to the Red Sox. They haven't done much either. They haven't done much signing. They also lost Eduardo Perez. He's gone and he's now with Detroit. They saw that deal. That was one of the first signings early in the season. Boston also. I'm pretty sure all the Boston fans that are listening or know that they're also saying what's going on in this universe with both the Yankees or Mets are not even in on none of these prize free agents or want to spend money. Heim Bloom is up there in the Boston. Came from the Tampa Bay organization and the analytics and penny pinching yeah, I can't believe we're saying Red Sox and Yankees are actually penny pinching. And we'll get to the Yankees in a moment, but with the Red Sox to see them not doing anything at all, also is kind of puzzling, right, Shaq?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Yeah, because normally, with the JD Martinez signing, with other things, they've always gone out and tried to spend the money. Even back to the A-Rod days, they had a contract pretty much waiting for him, and almost agreed, but then we stole him. But I honestly think it's a copycat league. Every sport is, and with the Rays' success with penny pinching and analytics, have you noticed it seems like the whole division's doing it? Toronto's let go of guys. Yankees have let people walk and haven't spent a lot of money yet this offseason. The Red Sox the same way. So I don't know if they're trying to do the same things as just the division champs are doing. I don't see it working because you can't do that. There's a reason they do that because they're a small market team. If they had the money they would spend it. But um, just crazy to see the Red Sox and the Yankees and just both not doing anything other than letting people go. It's crazy considering they both weren't really contenders for a championship. So normally you want to add pieces in baseball when you're one or two or three pieces away. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah, and like you said, why? I mean, I know that Tampa right now, let's face it, the last 5 years, they're the darling of the American League East. But They're doing it with smoke and mirrors. No one goes to those stadiums. No one goes to. I live in Orlando and close to Tampa. That is a really bad baseball stadium. And the fans don't care. They don't draw no matter who. The only times they draw is when the Red Sox or the Yankees go into play. And even in playoffs games, you see that there's empty sections. They got to close and bring everyone in. And don't why are you imitating someone with a small payroll? I understand it works because they're scouting, they're bringing players, and also they bring their young players who's young pitching prospects and puts them in the bullpen. And I didn't, and be honest with you, I haven't seen neither the Mets, I mean, it's neither the Yankees nor the Red Sox do the same thing as the Rays do. And we could go and we'll talk about the Yankees. This is the Yankee Bombers podcast, but we wanted to talk a little bit around the league. Was you don't see them bringing the young guys and putting them in the bullpen, starting them. You see them kid gloves, and even the Red Sox don't do that. So why copy the Reds? Why copy the Rays if you're not going to follow the whole team and their models? It
Yep.
makes you. Even Baltimore made a few moves there. They lost Severino, by the way. Pedro Severino is no longer a blue. He signed a free agent deal. I'll find the cut. I saw it earlier and I said, "Oh, I thought about you." I said, "I had to bring that up to you to let you know that he's no longer on the Baltimore Orioles roster."
And then that shows me, and my fiance is a Baltimore Orioles fan, so I follow the club, with her. And it shows me that they're actually trying to make a step towards their young prospects because they have the best farm system in baseball, the best as far as the best prospects. They got Adley Rutschman, former #1 overall pick. He's probably going to start this year, and due to that, maybe they're bringing up Grayson Rodriguez and they're bringing up all those guys. Haven't seen anything with Cedric Mullins. I don't know if they're keeping him or trading him or whatever the case, but good to see Pedro Severino, whatever home he went to. I'm not sure because you're looking it up, but he's a really good underrated defensive catcher that is just going to go out there and control your game, call a great game, and he's going to hit 240 too, which doesn't sound like a lot, but compared to like the catchers we have, that's pretty good. And salute to Austin, of course. The Dodgers aren't doing anything, and that is ridiculously surprising considering they just went all in on getting Trey Turner, Max Scherzer. They go in all year, and then they let go of Clayton Kershaw, who's been a staple to their organization for so long. Yeah, I know it hasn't fully happened yet, but if there's traction, that means they're thinking about letting him go. So it's just amazing. This is one of the most wild off seasons in recent memory.
Yeah, especially the uncertainty of the lockout. We don't know what's going to come upon that. There's going to be you know, will the luxury tax? Right now, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's at 240 million. For anything above it, you have to pay the tax, and that's what frustrates us as Yankee fans. Not seeing the Yankees doing anything, Cashman not doing nothing, and it's coming from Steinbrenner, from Howe, and they're at 210 million right now, and this is why we reset it. We went under it last year to reset it so we could be competitive and win. One thing that frustrates me, and if you're looking at Matt, and if the Yankees would have just offered a short-term contract, he got Scherzer got what 45 million or 42 million. If you would have offered two years, 100 million, he would sign with the Yankees. And you're putting him, Scherzer along with Cole. That's a 1-2 punch with the closer and the young talent. But hey, the Mets. Kudos to the Mets there. Let's talk about the Mets right now while we get into the Yankees. We see the Mets. Wow, they did some moves there. They made some moves there. It shows you that Michael Conforto will not be returning to the New York Mets this season back. We all started off with Noah Syndergaard leaving, for two and a half million, $3 million to the Anaheim Angels. If they say he wanted to stay here and so forth, and they let him go. They now you see Marcus Stroman no longer on the team. Jerry's Familia no longer on the team. It's a whole revamp. Javi Baez signs with Detroit. He got a deal there. That's a good job for Detroit. A team that's rebuilding, and that shows that Correa is not going to Detroit. There was a lot of traction on that as well. And the Mets, I'm thinking they're having a really good offseason. They got Sterling Marte. They play center field. They signed some minor league players there. They also signed Mark Canha, who could move around in platoon and in all the outfield position and first base. So it looks like you look for J.D. Davis, Dominic Smith, or to be moved, to be traded. Now, probably get some international money or so forth. What's your thoughts on those minor, they're major moves for the Mets, and improving their ball club?
Yeah, Max Scherzer is the best pitcher in baseball, in my opinion, no doubt. He's pitched to a champion. He pitches in big games. He's competitive. He's borderline insane when it comes to like his rituals and certain things he's done. Not in a bad way, but in a competitive, great way. Which is he's never gonna fall off, in my opinion, until age. He'll always be dominant. You pair him up with DeGrom. That's nasty. And you go get Starling Marte, which you needed a center fielder horribly, who can do it all. He's a 5-tool player. And then you got, Pete Alonso still there, who's one of my favorites. He's just a good baseball player. Seems like a good guy. They're building a team over there. And, of course, with Lindor, he might have a bounce-back season. But, 5 years for Starling Marte. Yeah, he's, 35?
Yeah.
36?
Yeah.
They're going all in for the next year or two, and all these contracts will eventually look bad in a few years, except for Max Scherzer. And which it is what it is. They're trying to win, but it didn't work the first time. So, is letting go of Javier Baez is going to hurt them? Because I think Baez, if I was them, I would have forced Javier Baez and Francisco Lindor to work it out. I would have gave Javi a contract and made them work it out, because once they did, they'd be deadly. But they definitely got better. Their pitching was their biggest thing, and they got a lot better adding Scherzer next to DeGrom. They just got to now add bullpen.
Yeah, they're definitely an old team. Sorry, Z. I'm sorry to cut you off. I wanted to just make this point. I wanted to elaborate with that as well. Their older team, they let Baez go because remember, Robbie Cano comes back. Yeah, I know, but it's a hefty contract. Although Steve Cohen said he doesn't care about spending 200. I think their payroll is like around 240 million after all these signings, and he says he doesn't mind going over. But also that's including Robbie Cano. So there was, and got Jeff McNeil. So you could put McNeil at third, possibly. Cano. Then you have Diorme or whoever. They also signed a really good platoon player as well that could play all the infield position. So that's why I wanted to remind you that Cano is coming back from the suspension.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, you could put, you could just figure it out with Cano. If you really are like Cohen says, if you're practicing what you're preaching, and you don't mind going over the luxury tax, then you of course find a way to keep Javier Baez, and you could also have Cano as, I don't know, a designated hitter when you need it, but you know what I mean. But like pinch hitter, but because he'll always be able to swing the bat. But it's just, it doesn't make sense to me that they didn't add any bullpen depth yet, because that's their biggest concern, and they just need to figure it out bullpen wise, because Cano, if he comes back and stays healthy, he'll be all right. Their second base, he's a smooth fielder, decent hitter. He's just not what he once was, but he's still competent. And like you said, with McNeil playing third, that's still a nasty lineup. Lindor, all those guys, if they bounce back. But I just don't see, if you're going to go all in, go all in. Don't let go of Javi. Don't let go of guys that are going to win you games. If you're truly going all in, it's just, I feel like they're going to have another letdown season next year. Other than Max Scherzer and help me out.
Jacob DeGrom.
Jacob DeGrom. Sorry, brain fart for a second. But
No,
those two are going to be good.
I got tongue twisted with Max Scherzer a few minutes ago, so don't worry, I feel you.
They're going to be good, but like Robert Parr said in the chat, Mets will always find a way to lose. Unfortunately, injuries kill their momentum. And look, Starling Marte's great. I wanted him personally, but an injury could happen. He's older. Robbie Cano, we know what his injury history is. Jacob DeGrom could get hurt. Max Scherzer could get hurt. All these guys are older. Every baseball player can get hurt, but the older guys, the veterans that have been through a lot of innings, are more likely to get hurt. So we'll see what happens. I do wish them a healthy season though, because I wish every team health. I don't like seeing people get hurt.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned about the health there. Remember, this playoff push that happened. Remember, Matt Scherzer. There's a concern. There was a concern that he had a dead arm. Now,
Yep.
we also saw the Dodgers try to use the living daytime to him the same way they Milwaukee did with CC Sebastian. CC Sebastian wasn't the same. After he really, he had that two good years with the New York Yankees, and then he had to reinvent himself. So he had a dead arm. That's a concern there for Matt Scherzer. I'm not trying to throw water on the Mets parade. They did a real good job signing these players. Also, Jacob DeGrom, is he fully healthy? They can diagnose it. He has pain. They shut him down. You know, what is he's a question mark. Believe it or not, coming into the new season
Yeah. And
upcoming.
also, we forget this year's draft with Kamar Rocker. They let him go, and now he has to be an independent ball for a full season before he enters the draft. They blew. I mean, I get he needed Tommy John surgery, but he's 18 years old. I mean, or 19. I'm sorry, 19 years old. You could very easily recover from that at 19 years old, but they let him go to save $5 million. They didn't have to pay him that first round pick salary. Doesn't make any sense because right there could be your future for when Scherzer's contract looks bad for one of these guys, because Kamar Rocker's one of the best pitching prospects of the last decade. So like some of the moves they made are great. Like you said, don't get me wrong. Some of their moves make zero sense to me. And
Yeah,
it's just
yeah, I agree with you on that.
like Kamar Rocker. I don't know if you or anybody in the chat has ever seen his footage or his tape, but I implore you to look it up because he is a stud. When once he gets that arm fixed, he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, and the Mets, right now they just got Billy Epler as as the general manager. Finally, they still don't have a manager. And this is a veteran team. A team that's going to require a strong manager. And right now the two leading candidates I heard is Bochy and or Buck Showalter. So Lou Heel, what's going on, man?
I'm
Hey,
so sorry.
no,
Just time zone, and then I got caught up doing something else, and I'm so sorry.
no problem, Heel. But if
Yeah.
if I could just on what Bronx said real quick, Buck Showalter would be a perfect candidate for that Mets team. He goes by gut, not just analytics. I think Max Scherzer would really respect his style, considering Max Scherzer is a very competitive type and very off the wall. They got some off the wall personalities, not in a bad way. I'm not saying they're head cases; they're just off the wall personalities. And I think Buck Showalter's the perfect guy to reel that in. If they have a chance at Buck Showalter, they need to jump.
I do got a
Salute
lot
to
to
you.
say about the free agency and everything, and especially about the Yankees. Yeah, like I don't, I don't know if those certain topics have passed, but yeah.
No, we haven't touched on the Yankees. We talked about the Toronto Blue Jays. They lost. Who they lost and who they just signed. And my point, we were making a point where we were talking about the American League East, and we jumped onto the Mets. So we're a little bit of everything. We wanted to leave the Yankees for just a little bit longer, to allow those that are getting the notifications to come in the chat and have a big audience jump into the Yankees, and I know you were coming on, and I wanted to. We talked about your Texas Rangers. Give us the insights on the Rangers on all their moves. I know that they're close to getting Kershaw. Is that deal final yet, or what's the holdup on that?
I hear nothing's final yet on Kershaw. As for the rest of the moves, holy cow! Like I know we talk about the Mets spending, that other team in New York should be spending. I'll just say that. I was like, that's awkward. I don't know how to put that, but I did not think we were like. I knew Don Dan was gonna say we were gonna spend big, but I was thinking maybe like, you know, maybe a 100 million here, 50 here. Around like the 200 million mark. For next year. No, he whipped out the checkbook and he said, "Listen, you want to play for a team that could potentially lead to like a World title, or at least contend for the next couple of years. Here's a check. Sign it. It's all yours." Like literally, he. And then we got Seager and Simeon. I'm so happy. I
Yeah,
am Gray.
not to rain on your parade, Heel, but I mean, have they done anything to become a World Series champion? Yeah, they added two dominant middle infielders. They arguably have now at least the top three, if not the best, middle infield in baseball. But they didn't really do anything with their pitching yet. And if they do add Kershaw, he's known to not be a big game pitcher. they have a lot of holes to fill in their rotation still.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I get it. This team isn't perfect,
Yeah,
but the future is looking bright. I
yeah,
mean,
I give you that.
you're again, when John Daniels signed Simeon, he said this in the press conference too. He signed these guys to basically be captains to help develop the future. So Corey Seager and Simeon are going to be our, guys for the future to help coach these guys, get them to be good. He even said it. He even said it himself, like Chris Woodward. He said, "Hey, we got Simeon, so that way, in case one of our guys is having a hard day, Simeon can go is put his arm on his shoulder to be like, hey, I used to mess up on the same things. Here's how you correct it. It's like, and
Yeah,
on top of that, now the number 1 and number 2 second baseman are now both in Texas, all my favorite teams. So I don't care who you want to choose on who's your favorite second baseman. Either way, it's a win for me. And then one of the top 5 shortstops in all of baseball is in Texas. Should have been in New York. I mean, let's be honest. At least
yeah,
arguably.
yeah,
But he's
but
in Texas. And now we have one of the best infields with Isaiah possibly the third, Josh Young coming up soon. Leody Taveras is just going to get better, hopefully. Adolis Garcia, I mean, if he continues what he did last year, he's going to be a solid bat right there in the middle of that lineup. Nate Lowe, good bat, solid bat. You already know what you're getting for him. Around 20 home runs to 60, 70 RBIs, around the 250, 260 batting average.
Yep.
I mean, this team, I mean, they have the potential in the next. And John Daniels said himself, he wants to contend by 2023. And so far, it's just looking great.
Made fantastic moves. But let me ask you,
Yeah.
Bronx and I were speculating on why it didn't make sense for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays fumbled Marcus Semien because if you remember on all the watch-alongs that we did together, Marcus Semien we had talked about was not happy playing second base in Toronto, and that's why he was more than likely going to leave. So why did the Blue Jays let him go to the Rangers to play second base when knowing that, okay, you want to play second base, we can offer you the bag as well. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make. Did he say anything in his press conference as to why he didn't sign with Toronto or what his motivation was? You know what I mean?
Apparently his motivation to come to Texas is the fact that he talked to Ron Washington one time when he was in Oakland struggling. And at the time, Ron wasn't managing or doing anything apparently at the time. And he loved the fact that Ron came from the Rangers. Like, let's be honest, when you talk about Ron Washington, you think of the Texas Rangers. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
even though he won the World Series with the Braves, you think about the Rangers when you talk about Ron. And he said that Ron taught him so much. He wants to, and that's why he wanted to come to Texas. And on top of that, another big reason for him coming to Texas is he said it's a great place to raise a family, and and this is where he wanted to do that. And I was like, well, good point. I mean, like, it is true. I'm like, playing wise, he said a lot can happen in 7 years, and so I just getting what I got from that. I'm just guessing a team didn't offer him the years he wanted. That's my guess.
Yeah, I just didn't understand. I understand why you would
Yeah.
go this, but I didn't understand why Toronto wouldn't offer him a contract as well because if he was okay with playing second base, you know what I mean? That wasn't his deciding factor for
Yeah.
him because he was going to play second. It just didn't make sense to me for Toronto's side of
Well,
things. Thank you for
there was this
elaborating.
one commenter who said this thing that really caught my eye, and this one Toronto Blue Jays fan said it. He's like, "Well, we could have offered probably the same thing if he wanted to stay at second, and so
Exactly.
why would he go to short? Well, I guess the guy was a Rangers fan too or whatever, and he just responded. He's like, let me ask you a question. Will you stay playing second base for 175 million?
Yeah, I'm just saying Toronto offered
Yeah.
money. Didn't make any sense for Toronto's side.
Oh yeah.
Kev, you
I don't.
make
No, maybe
If I
I was gonna say maybe he's a Governor Abbott fan. I don't
it.
my guess
You just want to
is
play back in the States.
know.
Toronto was more focused on Robbie Ray. That's just going to be my guess.
And he didn't even sign with them. He ended up going to Seattle. That's another
I
surprising
know.
move. Seeing their Cy Young Award winner go, but I give them kudos for signing Kevin Gausman right back immediately. I know it's not the same void to fill there, but they did bring him back, so they just didn't, stood there, left in the altar. They married the next chick available online.
The next mail order bride.
Yeah, so and Seattle's being aggressive. Seattle is in on Trevor's story right now, as I read. I was reading, Jeff Passan and others saying that there's interest from Seattle for Story.
And that was another guy that we were pretty certain that the Yankees were going to make a run at. But it just
if you guys want to dig into it, I'm ready.
We're ready. Are we ready to dig in on the Yankees, or we want to still talk about a little bit around? We weren't going to talk fully because I want to give full extent to the Yankees. But
It's
I
up
wanted
to you
to
guys.
talk a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit around the league as well, just to give, just so we're going to spend a lot of time.
I wasn't trying to bring it back to New York. I was just saying
No.
I was just taking another shot at my Yankees. All right, I'm allowed to do that. I'm mad. But anyway, Seattle, if they get him, what's going to happen with J.P. Crawford? I know he hasn't played well as far as batting average, but he is a great shortstop fielding wise. So, do you think about putting Trevor Story at designated hitter, second base, try to give him, what I mean? Try to keep some miles off of those legs and try to keep him more durable, especially if you're going to give him a long contract. A lot of speculation there, but, like every other team we've discussed so far, what happens to the other pieces? Because they're a good team, good young team. They made a decent run at things, even though it didn't end out the way they were. But they were playing really good baseball at the end of the season. So, you want to add to that with big names, like Robbie Ray. That's huge. But if you bring Trevor Story in, you also don't want to wreck what you have. You want to keep what you have and add on to that, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying there. Well, Seattle's interesting. The American League West, the whole conference, the whole division, excuse me, much more. They're going for it. Stuff, Audi Moreno getting Syndergaard. Also the Anaheim Angels are um trying to pry Castillo away from the Reds. They were in talks. They were just rumored and talking, checking in and trying to kick the tires, see what it takes. But I don't think Anaheim has the farm system to pry Castillo away from the Reds, but they're trying, they're talking. They signed a couple players there, so Anaheim trying to do something. You also have the Rangers. You saw what they did. We just discussed about them. We also heard about the Seattle Mariners. Adding the Cy Young Award winner and Trevor Story, and they did a couple bullpen move pickup. Also, the Anaheim Angels, Aaron Luke in the bullpen, former Met. I think Jerry's Familia is heading out that way. Now and also you have the defending American League defending American League champions, the Houston Astros. What are they going to do? What's their moves? Neil, tell me what so far. They're also in the Yankee land, but not making much move.
So on the Astros side of things, I know a lot of Astros fans are aggravated a little bit because they're just like, go ahead and pay Correa, and I'm just like, well, first off, number one, we don't need that many things in free agency. You don't. Like, we wanted pitching. We got it early on with Verlander. Like, I mean, you can improve on the bullpen, and that's fine. But even the bullpen is still really solid still. Because, like, right when we lost Graven, we still got Neris. So, the bullpen even is fine. I mean, could you get... So, that we can focus on at the trade deadline. I think if it's, shows that it needs improvements. But as for, like Correa and his situation, like I said before, if he wants the bag, like $300 million, he can go find it somewhere else. Like,
you lost.
If I'm the Astros,
you don't want to pay him?
Should I leave? I've seen the guy play for years. Obviously, I know how he can be. I'm not paying the guy $300 million.
I agree. I was just asking from from a Houston fan perspective.
Yeah, I haven't lost all faith. If anything, I think Correa is like really like teasing us until the last second, and he's either going to sign back, or he might sign with like a team we just don't know yet. Like, I have this gut feeling that.
Sorry,
I have that gut feeling that team might include a team like the Padres. I don't know why. That team's lurking in the back of my head for some reason.
even with Machado and Tatis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Tatis, they moved him to the out
Yes.
to prolong his career, so they might need a
Yeah.
shortstop. So if they do,
Exactly.
that's
That's
another
payroll
guy.
though.
And no offense to Carlos Correa, because I like him, but with Manny Machado, who's a known head case, and Tatis, and they is not a head case, I don't think, but they really clash. Do you think Carlos Correa is a personality that would fit with those two?
In a weird way, yes.
Because you know Correa as well
Because
as anybody. So do you think his personality, like, 'cause I just think they have a toxic environment in San Diego, especially the way they faltered last season.
I think last year was a learning lesson for Tatis in terms of like don't get too cocky, no matter how good you get. And as for Machado, I actually like the fact that he tried to step up as the leader in the clubhouse. And I think if you think about it, Correa could be that one to fix it. And I get it. Some people might say, "Oh well, you know, let's just like, let's just not involve New York whatsoever because what he said about Jeter and all that." But if you're Cashman and you want to make the fans at least decently happy, at least you can say you got Correa if you do throw him in the bag. But at the same time, it's like you don't like, and he's not a 300 mil guy. I'm just warning everyone. Like his stats look good at the end of the season most of the time, but he doesn't stay consistent that often to be a 300 plus mil guy. He just doesn't.
Yeah, so he's another A-Rod, is what you're telling
Like
us.
he'll go on cold streaks and really hot streaks. So
yeah, but that's I don't know.
Say that.
I don't as a
like
Yankee
when he's hot, he's arguably the best player in the game.
no, not even close. Carlos Correa is not the best player in baseball, but one of, but he's not the best. But I wouldn't.
No, I said at his best.
Oh,
Yeah,
at his best. Yeah, I understand. Okay, I understand what you're saying now, but I wouldn't want him for 300. No.
Don't be their names out there. They have them rumored, of course, in the Yankees. You know, you could take Detroit out of the picture. They signed Javi Baez. Javi Baez signed with Detroit. They have their shortstop. Although, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if they signed Correa and Baez and put them at shortstop and second base. Either both of them there to play there in Detroit. That wouldn't surprise me. New York, the Dodgers could be in on it because they I don't know how they feel about their rookie shortstop. They like him, but I don't know if
they also have
want to
Trey
make a big
Turner, right?
splash. Yeah. Atlanta Braves were also mentioned for Correa, a possibility, a landing spot. I'm gonna give a dark horse, man. I wouldn't even surprise me one bit if Correa ends up signing with the Marlins after all that knocking. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I'm just throwing that name out there. It wouldn't surprise me.
So for context, what all did he say about Derek Jeter? Just for everybody listening and for myself, because I don't think I heard all the comments.
Here's what he said. He said Derek Jeter did not deserve a single Golden Glove. He won, which is true if you look up the defensive run saved.
No, it's not. It's
so
not
true. He's actually stating facts.
No,
he said it on a Spanish podcast. It is true. Go look at the defensive metrics.
Were you? No, I don't care about analytics. Were you old enough to watch Derek Jeter play? How old are you? How old are you, Hill?
Yeah. I started watching baseball in 2005.
Yes, you didn't even see the dominant. You didn't even see the dominant. No. You don't. No. Derek Jeter deserved.
And I'll be honest with you.
Any of those Gold Gloves.
And he did not. He did not. When you have negative defensive runs saved, and you're winning Golden Gloves, there's an issue.
Well, I mean, no, I'm not going to get into that.
And I'm sorry.
But you can say Houston didn't deserve the World Series. You can say all sorts of stuff. It's just not true. Derek Jeter is one of the best fielding shortstops. He had one of the best rings.
You can say a lot of things about baseball.
He was literally one of the best shortstops to ever live.
He's one of the best Yankees. There's no doubt about it. Defensively though, he's not that impressive, and that's true. When I saw Yankees games, I'll be honest with you, there were times I watched and I was like, okay, I mean, He's making routine plays, but
you caught
nothing really
caught
spectacular
Jeter.
yet.
Routine
Jeter.
plays. He went 3 or 4 rows into the stands to catch balls. He was the first one to do the jump throw.
I still call him in his prime, mind you.
Hold on, Hill. He was the first person to do the jump throw. When people do that now, they say, "Oh, he has Derek Jeter range." You don't get Derek Jeter range without Derek Jeter being a good. That's not a name if he's not a good fielder, man. That's just it's. I don't care about analytics because I'm not saying
Off
I
of
don't
one
care.
play though.
Hold on. I didn't say one. I named 2, first of all. Second, you can't say that a guy is this, that on just analytics because we were just, and you included, Heel, you agreed with us, saying that Aaron Boone isn't a good. You can't just go off analytics. You have to go off gut. You have to go off eye test. You can't just use analytics. Because if you use analytics, I mean, you could say a lot of players aren't as good as what they're, or quote unquote overrated if you just go by analytics. But you watch baseball, if you play baseball and know the game, you know dang well how good Derek Jeter was.
And not only that, in 1996,
He's not the
they
best
gave
ever. Period.
they gave their shortstops. The New York Yankees gave their whole team to Jeter as a rookie in '96. From '96 all the way up to, you could say, let's put it to 2005 when you really captivate and see him. He was just solid, the best. Every day the lineup was put up, Jeter was in that lineup. No missing time. He had, of course, he had minor injuries, but he was a solid, always hitting. One of the best clutch hitters. Making, like you said, those routine plays. The jump man play. The range. Yeah, as the age goes, the range diminished. Absolutely, his range diminished back in 2011, 2010, around that, and it was starting to slip slowly, but he's still, and it was just not his popularity. He earned every bit of his popularity with his hustle on the field. You had a plethora of shortstops. That you had, you know, Alex Rodriguez, Miguel Tejada, Nomar Garcia Parra. You had help me out here with some other shortstops around that. They were supposed to be better than Jeter. And
Did you say Garcia Parra? You said
Ray Ordonez, who's supposed to be the shortstop wizard. Nobody.
Miguel Tejada. Orioles fans used to say he was better.
Are we talking just 1990s or
Alex
are we talking about just 1990s
Rodriguez?
or like any time period that Derek Jeter fell?
No, but it's part of his career though.
Because if you want to include the other 2000s,
that's part of his legacy. And
it is. And
did the
sorry.
Yankees?
Go ahead.
Did the Yankees not allow? The Yankees might have allowed him to play shortstop maybe 3 to 2 years, way past his prime. And that's what everybody's remembering. Him not at the end of his 2 3 years, past his prime. They should have moved him to second base, or so forth. But
if it wasn't,
you get.
If it wasn't for those 2 highlight plays that I think Z here is talking about, I don't think we would be talking here about Derek Jeter being one of the best defensive shortstop ever, and that's, I think, a fact.
I'm sorry, Gil. I respect you, but that's the most laughable thing I've ever heard you say.
It is.
Because it's not just 2 highlight plays; those are just 2
defensive shortstops.
But we're not saying he's Ozzie Smith,
and
I'm not saying he's Ozzie Smith
or Omar Vizquel.
He's nowhere near Ozzie Smith.
No one said that, but you can't say he didn't deserve a single Gold Glove. I mean, if you look, DJ LeMahieu's an Anthony Rizzo or platinum Gold Glove winner.
He didn't the year that he won.
Hold on, I'm talking. Have you ever seen any of the DJ LeMahieu or Anthony Rizzo make any sort of highlight plays like that? No, you haven't. And I'm not just talking about highlights. I'm talking about every day, all the routine plays he made. His error count was never ridiculous. He was always sure-handed, and that's the most. If you know anything about baseball, the thing you look for most in a shortstop is 3 things. You look for arm. He had a rocket arm. You look for range. He had Jeter range. People wish they could have Jeter range. And number 3, fundamentally sound hands. His hands were some of the best I've ever seen. Turning a double play, there's nobody better. There was nothing sweeter than watching Robinson Cano and Derek Jeter turn double plays than anybody in the league at that time. I'm not saying he's Omar Vizquel or any of those guys, but you can't say he was like grossly overrated. You can't say that in any aspect of his game.
No,
he's the only true
he's not
5-tool player.
Not as a
Well,
player.
that's what people are saying. He was
That's what
grossly
they're saying.
overrated. That's the argument here. And it's laughable. No offense, Hill.
Not as
You
a
know I
player.
respect
I'm
you
just.
and I love talking to you, but that's laughable.
I'm not. Well, I remember. You got to remember my awards though. I never said he was grossly overrated. I just said he was overrated as a defender. He was a solid to good defender. He wasn't like great or fantastic.
He was a good in his prime, a Gold Glove shortstop. But when his career diminished, the range slipped, and he didn't stay being one of the best Gold Glove shorts. Like I said again, he's not Ozzie Smith, he's not Omar Vizquel. And to be honest with you, you give me a game 7 on the line, and a ground ball up the middle in the hole. And in their prime, I'm taking Jerry Jeter to get that ground out put out over
And
Correa. I'm
you want
sorry.
to, Kev? You want to talk about Jeter range?
Oh, over
What about
Curry?
the Oakland
Yeah.
Athletics series? Literally,
Yes.
the freaking commentator. Where did Jeter come from? There
Out of
is no.
nowhere.
You can go back and look at Vizquel, who never came close to competing with Jeter, and they're both played in the same time frame. Never ever would have. Their teams were talented. Never ever would have beat a Jeter team. But you literally can look up any shortstop in the history of the league, and you will never find another man that made a play like Derek Jeter did that night against the Oakland Athletics to win a playoff game.
Clutch. But I'm not. But
To win.
I'm not here saying that he's the greatest shortstop either.
No.
I make that clear that he's not the greatest shortstop in MLB history. No, because Cal Ripken Jr. was phenomenal. But you, like I said, you have other shortstops that were great. But Jeter, to say he that was a gift. You know what was a real gift of a Gold Glove? Rafael Palmeiro. That year that Tino Martinez was phenomenal in 1996. Gold Glove first baseman, and Palmeiro only played 45 games at first base, and they gave him the Gold Glove. Now that's what you call overrated, right there.
Oh, there's so many players you call overrated. Then giving Chris Davis $188 million. I mean, this goes back to Baltimore, but yeah. Nomar Garcia.
By the way, did you say Derek Jeter was the best 5-tool player?
No, Nomar Garcia Parra had 3 good seasons.
I just want to.
And everybody tried to say he was better than Derek Jeter.
What was that again? Let Hill give me this question. Go ahead, Hill.
Did Zach say that Derek Jeter was the best 5-tool player like ever or something like that earlier?
No, why would I ever say something? I said he is a 5-tool player.
He's a good 5-tool player.
You can't find another 5-tool player that was quite like him. I didn't say he was the greatest ever, but he was the most unique 5-tool. He had gap power. He was great at hitting the opposite field. He could field he could put him up as a glove with the best of them. I didn't say he's better than the best. I said you could put his glove with the best of them in some of the plays he's made. He could hit for contact, power. He could steal bases in his prime. There's nothing he could not do.
Right. Let me ask you this, Hill and Z. What's your thought about, and this is Buster Posey. He just retired.
Buster Posey?
He's not the greatest catcher there is. He's not. But Johnny Bench, you got other players, but he is a winning. When you think about, he won championships in a city that hasn't won in years.
Well, if I could, just if you, and when they say in baseball especially, since they're the most traditionalist, never going to change as far as Hall of Fame credentials. When you look at the question for a Hall of Famer, can you tell the story of baseball without bringing up this guy's name? If you can, he's not a Hall of Famer. If you can't tell the story without bringing him up, then he is a Hall of Famer. You cannot tell the story from the 2000 to the early 2010s of baseball without talking about Buster Posey. If not for injury, he would still be playing and he'd be a $300 million catcher as far as I'm concerned. This guy literally could do everything. He's one of the best catchers to ever grace this planet. Is he the best? Absolutely not. But he's top 20, top 15 of all time. If you look at just his prime, I'm not talking about career numbers, but I'm talking about how good he was in his prime. There wasn't many like him, Kev.
And that's and we could say that, too. And he's not, and guys, he's not a Yankee either. And I consider him to be in for a catcher, around the Jeter type of impactful player. The intangibles, the winning, the leadership on the field, on the diamond, championship. When I think of San Francisco and World Series, and there's the great Willie Mays, but you gotta think about Buster Posey.
And also, Kev, not for nothing, but the way he caught pitchers, you could say he helped Madison Bumgarner's career, because did Matty Bum do anything after he left, after Buster Posey?
No.
Was he the same pitcher?
No, and he's still dingling around and still hasn't found his niche.
Exactly. So you got to say Buster Posey did a lot.
The other kid that came over from Oakland, Zito. Was it Zito or
Tim Lincecum.
Lincecum? There you go.
Barry Zito.
And Barry Zito.
Yeah, it was, and when you think about that, you think about that. And that's why.
Are you talking about from the city, or?
We're talking about like
they're
franchises.
We're talking about their franchises. When you think about the players, and that's why I think when you think about, you can't arguably say that Jeter got gifts there, because he earned it. Okay. He earned it. That type. When you think of that, there's another name, Chipper Jones. But Chipper Jones is another name. You talk about Chipper Jones, and no one dare to say, "What you say that it was a token that because he was engraved, he deserved whatever accolades he had." Not a great defensive third baseman. Chipper Jones played good third baseman. I mean, he's not Brooks Robinson, he's not, but he was a really good defensive third baseman and a good clutch hitter.
And you said Cal Ripken Jr. I know a lot of people who think he's overrated and think his stats are inflated just because he played so long and he played so many games. And that's true to an extent as far as his stats are inflated because of how many games he played. That does not change how great of a player he was. Stats out the window, he was a great baseball player, and you can't take nothing from Cal Ripken Jr. But people try, and that's what I'm saying, that it's really laughable when people try to down the greats of this game and try to take anything away from them. Because the people that never played baseball at a high level, people that don't know what it takes, don't understand just how great these people are and how great these players are.
I'm gonna throw you one for one of your teams. I know you didn't see him because I know you started 205. Will Clark, a good first baseman. I seen him. One of the best defensive first basemen.
I know about Luke. I know about Will Clark.
Phenomenal. And, he's not there yet in the Jeter type because he didn't lead his team to World Series and there. But if you're telling me a Will Clark's, the way his defensive metrics, phenomenal defensive first baseman.
Also, if you want to talk about people that get that overrated badge, Craig Biggio.
Oh, phenomenal, big time.
I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah,
but a lot of people say he was just but I was saying he was still a good baseball player. You can't take nothing away from how good he was. Or Jeff Bagwell, but people said they were just empty stat patterns on a bad team. Like, that's not fair to say, considering just how great they were as baseball players. Baseball's an ultimate team sport. You can be a great player on a bad team forever. That's not your fault that they win or lose, because you need 9 people to play on a string. They need to be attached. You see what the Dodgers did. They put a great team together, assembled the Avengers, and still couldn't win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He actually was who was actually a really good third baseman and doesn't get talked about, the late Ken Caminiti.
Or Wade Boggs.
Exactly. Another one. Excellent. Yeah. Although he was known,
Adrian Beltre.
Another excellent. Yeah, and they could say he's a compiler because he stood around and got all those. No, Beltre, and I give my respects to him. And he never played for the Yankees, but he was a good, solid player.
People said that Mariner year when he came to the Mariners after leading the National League in home runs, that it was a fluke or he was overrated because he switched leagues and didn't do the same thing and was never quite the same. That doesn't take away just how great of a player great of a third baseman he was for 20 years. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know.
I know it's an analytics and metrics.
I don't know how you can say Biggio is overrated.
Biggio's highly overrated. People think people put them in Jeter category at one point, and I mean he was never clutch. He was never the type that you could rely on him to make winning plays in a big game, or they put him in Cal Ripken territory at one point. Like in his prime, they were putting him in categories of greats that were never reaching. But he was a great player, is what I'm trying to say. Same thing with Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, you can call it a new school ounce of, like, too. Baseball or whatever.
But we kind of dropped.
You could say I'm just like a more new school fan or whatever, but like for me, Yeah, I love super utility players that can be consistent, like the Ben Zobrises of the world, and obviously Kirk Biggio can play catcher and in infield, and I think even outfield. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
yeah,
Ben
we should
Zobrist.
get on track though.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Ben Zobrist isn't
Oh yeah,
Wasn't
he's
nothing.
not a Hall of
He
Famer
was
like
okay
that.
Hall
for
of
two
Famer.
Graduate.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
He's
were
just
all
a
right.
guy who helped
He
us.
was
Just
clutch
remember,
though.
I'll say
I mean,
I'll say this, and then we, whatever you guys want to say, and then we can get back on topic. But perfect example, go watch Moneyball. All this analytics, they were the first team to do it, and ever since, any team that just look at the Tampa Bay Tampa Bay Rays,
They deserve that name.
they always, that's why I said it. You know me too well. But every team that literally just focuses on analytics doesn't win championships. It's that simple. You want to win a championship, you can't just focus on analytics. You have to do other things and eye test, and you have to focus on your gut as a manager. You can't, and as a player, you can't just do analytics. Analytics don't tell you to bunt to third base when the shift and everybody's on second base. Analytics don't tell you to do that. Analytics tell you to walk, home run, or strike out. That ruined baseball. Walk, homer, or strike out ruined baseball. And that's what this analytics crap does. Tony Gwynn was not an analytic guy, and he doesn't get talked about. He's one of the best hitters ever.
Yeah. Yeah, Tony Gwynn was. But we'll get back.
love
We'll
Tony
get
Gwynn
back.
personally.
We could talk about this for hours. This is a good debate there, but it was the free agent trackers. We could continue the conversation here, or we could go back to the free agent top. It don't make a difference. It don't matter. Because it's a good. Also, we're also walking down memory lane of the baseball. The
Like when
modern era.
baseball was good.
Yeah, in the 90s, we could say 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, and now here, because I could even drop back to the 70s. Go back, break that down there too. But we'll be here all night because we could keep. Then we'll go back to the 60s, and baseball has. The point is, baseball has such a rich history. These young talent, these young players now keep changing the bar and setting the bar to a higher level that we start looking at our players from the past, and we're like, these guys are doing much more, setting the bar higher than what you used to, so we could be hunting around in about 10 more years. They're going to be talking about, Mike Trout wasn't a good player. Maybe 10, 20 years from now,
But
our grandkids or our kids will be probably talking about that there,
but
Mike Trout.
and again, that's it tied to you can't say that he wasn't that great because the best pitcher they put around him is Shohei Ohtani and Noah Syndergaard way past his prime. Like you can't, that's part of the team building. But my question to you guys, I just thought about, with Javier Baez signing with the Tigers, what do you think? What do you think Miguel Cabrera does for an impact on Javier Baez's longevity as a hitter, like mentoring him, and also he's got to be upset that they did this 10 years too late. They started actually putting great players around Miguel Cabrera. What are your thoughts on how Miguel Cabrera could impact Javi Baez's career?
I don't think he'll do anything. I think Cabrera's looking great.
Do you,
I'm surprised if it's his
do
final
you,
year this year. What do you think, Hugh? I think Hugh, you there?
change
I think Derek Jeter ruined his dream.
Mets, but I mean, I'll be on.
He's lost the voice. We got him. We stumped him.
That's what he gets. No, just kidding.
Oh, you know what? Let me see if Icy Blue wants to come on.
You hear me?
Icy Blue. We can hear you.
You're breaking in and out.
You're breaking in and out
Yeah.
though. So close the apps from your iPhone. So as Hugh has technical difficulties, I think Miggy Cabrera could help out Javi Baez. Let the game, let it breathe, relax. You don't need to be too much. I know he's very. You know what it is? Javi Baez is extremely passionate. He's a very extremely passionate ball player, and he tends to wear his emotions on the sleeve. And sometimes
Mhm.
it's good bad. It's good and bad, but
Yeah.
maybe
And
Javi will pump the brakes a little for him. But remember, Baez has won a world title as well.
Yep.
So
Well, you remember, this is exactly, I'm so glad you said that. That's exactly why I posed the question. Miguel Cabrera was the same exact way in
Hello.
Miami with the Marlins. And when he was younger and he came to Detroit, he was a World Series champion, and he was labeled a hothead, like the type that, wore his emotions on his sleeve, was a little too cocky, and he calmed himself down over his career, and he's still one of the best hitters to ever live. He's my top three to top five as best all around hitters the game's ever seen. But he could help him, like you said, stay patient, understand that it's not breakneck 100 miles an hour every play. Just thinking at bats, stay patient, like Icy Blue said. I think he could do a lot for, even if it's only 1 year, just helping Javi Baez as a mentor.
Hugh, are you back with us? All right, Mr. Hugh is having issues. Hugh, you having issues this podcast again?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Is it me you're looking
Okay,
for?
good.
Can I tell you something?
I
Yes,
can
Hugh.
see it in your eye.
That is what you get. Derek Jeter heard you, and he ruined your cell service. There you go.
And he was having technical difficulties.
Can you guys
Yes,
hear me
go
now?
ahead. Yeah, you have the floor, my friend.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Gil.
This is not paid Verizon.
This is not
commercial, but we can
Verizon.
hear you.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
We can hear you.
good. I know. I'll be honest with you. I think part of the reason why Javi signed with Detroit is because he's like, great, they're rebuilding. I don't have to try. I'll be honest with you. I think that was part of the appeal.
You just collect the check and play.
You think he doesn't want to play? You think you think Javi Baez, the pressure gets him because he came to New York, pressure, Chicago, after the World Series,
I
expectation,
do.
pressure.
Maybe to an extent, but at the same time, he was a huge part in that World Series championship. So he's shown at one point he can handle pressure.
Correct.
Ending that drought, but I see what you're going for. I see where you're.
Yeah, but now
going.
he's more of a focal point because
Yeah.
you saw Bryant leave. Actually before Bryant, they started fending off pieces, and they eventually, you know, maybe he doesn't want to be the main guy here. Maybe that's but in Detroit now you are because maybe like Cabrera, what has he got, a year, 2 years max left in that body to work play? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. And they know Nick Castellano. I don't think he's going back to tattoo Detroit either. He hasn't. He's still out there in the free agent market. I don't unless Detroit brings him back. But it's interesting to see with Detroit Tigers with Javi Baez. I could have sworn I thought, but I knew the Mets weren't going to bring him back because of Cano. If they would have bought out Cano or moved, but no one's going to get that contract for Cano. Although Steve Cohen could just to give the money for him to go away, but I knew that once they didn't do nothing. I knew that Javi Baez days in New York was numbered.
Yeah, and maybe he goes to Detroit for the sole purpose of, he saw Miguel Cabrera went there and might compete for a couple of years if they do rebuild around him, but there's no expectation. They're looking for a guy to sell tickets. They're looking for a guy to put up numbers, and he's looking to just put up numbers, have fun, and make a lot of money. And I think that's also an avenue that of thought that's acceptable for the Javi Baez move and why he did it.
Yeah. With that said, let's jump into the New York Yankees. We spent about an hour already. We talked about the league. We got off track a little bit with Hugh about the Derek Jeter and the metrics, the shortstops, and we had to give him a little bit of an old school history on the shortstops and the narratives on the eye test. Not the analytics, not that Kenny. And one thing about analytics messing around the baseball, but also the MLB Network. Brian Kenny's another one who with his I know Chris Russo gets on him and they go back and forth with Kenny wants to bring that war and all these ridiculous numbers and you got old timers like Chris Mad Dog Russo that watched the game and called in New York sports for over 40 plus years on the radio, and he's seen it. He knows, and they get back and forth. And I'm with Russo. It's not all about the numbers for WAR, BIP, and all that. It's about the eye test. But let's get into the New York Yankees. As Heel, are you back with us?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I tried to get in on my laptop. It wouldn't let me. So I was like, you know what? I'll just stick to my phone. I'll just try to be closer to my internet.
You want me to send it back to your phone or to your
Well, I got my Skype open, but no, okay. It's whatever. It's fine. Everything's fine now.
All right. Hopefully, we get this going. We're gonna start. We spoke about an hour about around the league. There's still so much to talk about the league, but this is the Bronx Bombers Strikes Back podcast. Let's talk about the New York Yankees. We saw they didn't tender Frazier. They didn't tender, quite a few players there. First of all, Andrew Velasquez to Anaheim. They traded him away. He got picked up on claim on waivers. Also, they traded away Tyler Wade to the Anaheim Angels as well. They didn't tender Clint Frazier, who signs with the Chicago Cubs, by the way. So salute to KW Advance in the building. So what's your thoughts on that? With the Yankees, with those cuts, to protect their 40-man roster?
I'm very disappointed, and also let's not forget Tyler Wade. Yeah. So let's take it back to when we were doing watch-alongs and they were struggling, and all of a sudden they went on this 13 game winning streak. I believe it was 13 games. Who was starting at second and sometimes outfield, and who was starting at shortstop? Andrew Velasquez and Tyler Wade. They brought speed, they brought great fielding, and they brought just attitude, willing to win, do whatever it takes, nitty-gritty stuff, and they could hit. They were at one point they were both hitting over. Tyler Wade had a great year when he was in, but you don't get rid of guys that help you go to the playoffs, especially if they're cheap. Especially you want to do this whole cheap crap where you want to not spend money to win. Those guys are perfect candidates to keep around. And Clint Frazier, my God, first-round pick, all the talent in the world, all the hype. I was at a game where he hit the walk-off against Milwaukee. I was in New York when it was his third game as a Yankee. You had all this talent, but you wouldn't bench Brett Gardner or get rid of Brett Gardner to let him get some time, and then you go get Joey Gallo. They ruined Clint Frazier's career. Let's be honest. They did. And then it's what are they doing? It just scares me on who they might add soon. I don't know. Heel, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Kev, actually. At least from what I hear. Because at the time when they got Clint Frazier, their outfield was, I believe, starting to begin to age or already aged. So I was like, oh, perfect. They got Clint Frazier from the Andrew Miller trade. That is smart. I'm like, he's probably going to be now a primary left fielder. Because I believe when they got him, Aaron Judge was just a rookie. So I was like, perfect. I'm like, you got Judge in right, Frazier in left, and maybe I think at the time you guys still had him Hicks and center and all that. I'm like, that's a good outfit for the future. And then all of a sudden they're like, nope, Brett Gardner is still playing. Nope, we're not gonna let the young guy develop like he's supposed to. And then I think finally he might get a chance to redeem himself. If anything, I was happy when he was let go because I was like, now he has a chance to redeem himself in Chicago and hopefully get a decent extension the following season. Assuming everything goes back to plan after the lockout or whatever.
And not for nothing, but Brett Gardner's role last year as utility outfielder should have been his role the last 6 years.
Yeah, I definitely say that. And Tyler Wade, that was another one that caught me off guard. I was like, listen, I know Tyler Wade isn't fantastic, but you can tell the guy is a utility player with a decent bat. And I'm just like, the fact that you let him go to the Angels for nothing, at least you could put the two together in a decent trade for prospects. That would have been a lot more intelligent, at least in my opinion.
Or for trade
yeah, something, but they just let him go, and now one's in LA, the other one's in Chicago, and then Odor made a lot of sense. I was like, okay,
right,
that makes sense. I was like, I'm fully on board with that. But the other two, I'm like, yeah. Yeah, awkward. And then
Yeah.
then we'll get into the catcher they decided to keep afterwards.
I was just about to say that. You took the words out of my mouth, and they keep Sanchez.
And Odor signs with the Baltimore Orioles, so he is an Oriole.
Have fun.
So Rugi Odor playing in the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to see him 19 times.
Rugi Mendoza Lines, his new name.
and then no moves made. They tendered Miguel Andujar, which another one.
Why?
I'm like, why?
Why?
What's the point? You don't
What's
play
the
him
point?
really.
They don't have a position for him here. He's a terrible left fielder. Third base, okay, he could play a little third base, but and also they tendered Gio Lachella, so Shella will be returning to third on a 1-year deal. So also they tendered Sanchez, although they tried to trade him to the Marlins. Marlins got Jacob Starling. That was a smart move by the Marlins organization. They actually gave up a pitching prospect. So they put 3-1 players to send him back to Pittsburgh, which I thought the price tag for a 31-year-old catcher was a little bit steep. But Jacob Starling is really good catcher, good metrics, catcher, calling plays, framing, and so forth. He has a good all too, but he was 31 years old to give up so much of that young prospects going back for Marlins. They take a chance. They have a plethora of young good pitchers, and they put a good catcher there, like and a Jacob Starling to man that. Who knows the Marlins? Who knows what the Marlins could be next year? They were a year removed from the playoffs, although it was a shortened season, but still they're in the playoffs, and they're Marlins are doing something smart there. They also got Kiermaier from Tampa. They Joey Wendell, excuse me, and Wendell as well. So Tampa cut some payroll. They got some of the Tampa players on Miami, and watch out, Miami. I'm not saying they're gonna be a tough team in the National League East,
Obviously,
but
Garcia.
Aracel Garcia, also a good move there. So I know we want to stay on the Yankees, but there's so much moves around the Major League Baseball, that we want to get in on this podcast, and we can always do a part two of a podcast as well. But with the Yankees, your thoughts about Sanchez? I'm okay with it because there was no other alternative right now. Severino signed elsewhere, and I think he went to, if I'm not mistaken, the Royals. I'm not sure where. I'll find out in a minute. But
Yeah,
he
but
was on the move. Go ahead, Steve.
Who?
that is an alternative because Pedro Severino was available. They could have signed him. The Yankees could have signed these guys. At least made an offer before you bring back Sanchez. Bring back that. I hate Sanchez. Bring him back if there's no other options. If everybody else is already signed, cool. But don't bring him back before everybody else is signed. Is my thing. Don't bring him back. I mean, you can find somebody better than Gary Sanchez still out there right now.
It's
You just
not
gotta.
hard.
I mean, is there anybody out there better than Gary Sanchez?
There was this guy called Roberto Perez, so I was like, "Yay, go after him!" But no, he's signed, I believe, with the Marlins. I'm not sure as a backup. Yeah, I was like, at least someone better defensively. Like, and by the way,
Yeah.
Andujar's another prospect they ruined. Granted, he was really bad
Mm-hmm.
defensively, but he was still young when he came
But
up. Like
injuries ruined
yeah.
him. If he got injured, it was
Well,
never the same.
you can argue that too, but still, I think even then he was young. It's like, but anyway, like Gary Sanders, I'm like, if you're a Yankees fan, like, don't, I'm not gonna say his name because obviously I don't want to promote anyone on the channel that watching them, but I was hearing and he was like, I understand the Yankees fans want to like complain like that, but you got to remember though, it's just gonna be the start of December and the lockout. You got to wait until you see what they do at the lockout. Like, and they're like, I understand. Like you see a bunch of other teams making moves and spending money, but it's gonna be you have to have patience with the Yankees. They're gonna do something. I'm like, that's the point though. I'm like, they kind of put it like this too. I'm like, you literally are like that nerdy guy at the dance that doesn't have a girl to dance with. While every other team is just like, yeah, let's go, let's party. We got our girl, our cups, everything.
Yeah, and
Yeah, Jan Gomes.
Pedro Severino ended up signing with the Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh yeah, it's like you have every right to be mad. And then on top of that, teams are spending more than you. That's not what reality are we living in? And
And it's not the fact that they're spending more out of it. You got Matt Scherzer, and the Yankees not even part of the conversation. That's the worrisome. You had your Seager. Yankees weren't not even part of the conversation. The Yankees are in a negotiation ploy with Corey Seager. Nothing. Marcus Simeon. The Yankees weren't even in the conversation. Brian Cashman met with Boris or whatever. You don't even hear that being reported. You're not hearing the Yankees being reported in none of these free agents being signed. Although I don't want Robbie Ray either. I don't want another soft tossing pitcher in New York. We want, but the only one that we heard them sign was you. And my point was you offer 25 million, 50 million, in 25 per year for Verlander. You couldn't give Scherzer double that, and he's not coming off of Tommy John for 2 years. 2 years. I wanted me personally in my perfect world. I would have wanted the Yankees to try and give me. I don't care. It's a lot of money, but the Yankees print money, and the money that we spend on the MLB package, going to the stadium, all that merchandise. Look at every time I can have 162 screens, and I think I can have about 100 jerseys and shirts of New York for every different watch along screens that I
yeah,
would do. So the point is, I spend and I buy merchandise and I back my team up. I'm not trying to you know uh, cut corners when it comes to the Yankees. I spend because I want to win. I enjoy watching them win. The point is that you could pay two. You couldn't go the extra 50, 25 million. You make that. You know how much you invigorate the fan base. You got Cole, Scherzer. You forget it. You forget about it. You were like, wow. This team, Judge. The star power. The Yankees are back. The Bronx, the evil empire rises. And it's like that's what
yeah,
as fans we get frustrated and we're like, why? It's like Brian Cashman. You're sleeping on a sleeping bag on the side of the in the sidewalks. I understand you're doing it for a charity, a good cause, but this is what it seems like the Yankees are doing. They're sleeping. They're sleeping. They're camping outside in the streets of New York when there's work to be done here, guys.
Yeah, it's what's the definition of insanity? Repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and you just the past 6 years it seems, other than the Garrett Cole signing, they haven't really done anything, and they don't spend money anymore. Even with the big Garrett Cole and Giancarlo Stanton contracts, they're still not in the top 5 anymore in payroll, and it's probably not even in the top 10 right now, considering what the Rangers just did, what all these teams are going, what the Mets are doing. I mean, it's maddening considering you're used to one thing your whole life as a Yankee fan, and they just don't do anything. Yes, they should trade Aaron Hicks. He's a bum.
yeah,
I see
yeah.
too. He's having a good, well though statistically wise, he's having a good winter ball league in the Dominican League. He's playing in Dominican Republic. But although I saw some of his highlights and there are a lot of blue pits. They're blue pits in the right location. For doubles. Rolling when against. Hopefully he's learning how to hit against the shift maybe. But Aaron Hicks, you could they're going to explore. They're going to try to see if they get to who. Do you trust these Yankees to bring up Esteban Florio? We've been hearing Esteban Florio for 3, 4 years now. Esteban Florio, Esteban Florio. He's okay. You're still keeping Greg Garner around. You know, you had Clint Frazier, nothing. I've seen a lot of prospects. Mason Mason Williams, another one. We're always going to be the next center fielder. The Yankees, as a Yankee organization, I think they pump up their prospects so much, and
Like,
and then get worried. Like,
are you
what
worried about Jason Dominguez too? Like what they might do to his career?
I'm worried about that too. Hicks stinks. 7 years was dumb. It's all about the thought at the time. Yeah, I agree with you, Austin. It was a bad move. Aaron Hicks. I thought he was good, but I'm like, why did you extend him? You
And he
know,
was a number 1 pick. He was a number 1 pick in the draft
but
by Minnesota.
I didn't see the flair with him. You know,
Exactly.
I didn't see what was. I preferred. You know what? You would have told me you would have gave Aaron Hicks money to Didi the Glorious. I would have been okay. And Aaron Hicks one, I would have been okay, good.
And the only
Because
thing Aaron Hicks has is he has a rocket arm. That's it. But with all the injuries, how do you know he still has that? He's
and,
not fast anymore. He's put on weight. I mean, he's not his center fielder. He's not the best as good a center fielder as he used to be. And like Austin said, 7-year contract. $80 million. What are we doing? We spend money on the guys that it's like a no-brainer. Us fans sit there like, yeah, I wouldn't spend that money on him. And then they spend it to him, and then we're like, yeah, let's spend money on this guy, and they don't even think about it. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. And for those that are saying, "Oh, the Giancarlo Stanton contract ruined the Yankees and this and that," to a degree, because they allow them to be cheap, because they saw that, oh my God, we got Stanton, we're not going to change this money, you know. And I know we're going to say this over and over, and it's not going to, no matter how much you say it, George Timer ain't coming back. But if George was here, because everybody says that if George was around, yeah, but let's, he's not gonna rise from the grave, unless the rapture returns. But we leave that for another day. But Steinbrenner is not going to arise and come back, and the George at least not going to come in here and spend. And they it's just how thinking as a business. And you know it's just like, what are we doing here? You got people, you're gonna see Yankee Stadium empty again like it was in the early '80s if this keeps up. This season is gonna be a rough Yankee season if you're telling me to fill out that stadium if they don't do any moves, or if they telling me, even if they say we're going to youth movement, we're gonna bring Anthony Velope up here, we're gonna Oswald Peralta, bring him in here, so forth. Okay, I'm okay with that, but I would have been okay with that if you would have signed Max Scherzer at that contract, and I said, "Well, now you got two stud aces. Yeah, you're gonna bring a rookie kid here, especially when Cashman goes on now and tells the whole Major League Baseball, and maybe he's doing that for a reason, that we need a shortstop. Yeah, we're in the market for a shortstop, and you see all these teams. Maybe that's let me be cynical. Maybe he's being an evil genius. And you know what? The Yankees need a shortstop. Let's overpay these guys, and pay all this money on these shortstop. And maybe the shortstop he really wants maybe it's Simmons all along. He wants a good defensive, strong shortstop to play up the middle. One win championship, strong up the middle. But then you could be devil's advocate and say, well, if you really wanted to be strong up the middle, you brought Sanchez back. So it's like, where are we at? Mixed messages with the New York Yankee organization. What's your plan? What's your move? Are you going to be, you're not that far from really becoming a World Series contender, but you're also a couple moves now that make it seem like the best expectation is one game playoff.
If I could say something right here, it's
Yeah.
kind of funny that the Yankees are to the point now where they're just like, we're fine with Simmons, because you know what that reminds you of. It's kind of like when you go to the bar with your bros and you just decide to take one from the team, but the girl's still decent. You're just like, all right, I'll do it because she's at least decent looking.
No, don't say that. Anderson
I've been married
Simmons.
for
I've wanted Anderson Simmons. I was the one that started that Kev can tell you.
Yeah, he did.
Anderson Simmons is a career 260 hitter. He had a down year last year. He didn't want to be in Minnesota. There's a lot of different factors with that. He's a career well over 330. He's a career 330 on base percentage and a career 260 hitter. The dude is and the dude is also the best defensive shortstop in the game. There is no. It literally, Wainwright is the best defensive shortstop in the game. So if you're the best defensive shortstop in the game, you hit 260-ish, 250 with a 300-plus on base percentage. That's exactly what the Yankees need at shortstop. They don't need the big $300 million guy.
I agree when it comes to the defensive stuff, but let's be honest, compared to what was on the market and what still is with Story and Correa, you can't tell me that your team's going to be like, all right, well, I guess we got Simmons. That's something.
But he's way better defensively than those guys. You don't need the star power hitting. You already have that in Judge and Stanton and all these guys. You don't need another home run hitter.
Would you rather have Seager, Correa, and Story and Simeon, the guy that can also play short, over Simmons? Let's just be honest.
Not for the money they're getting. No.
Simmons didn't really even get that much, at least compared to the qualifying offer. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Not for the money of $325 million for Seager.
And Simeon is 32. Simeon is 32 years old.
Yeah, no, that's a stupid
he's 31.
Contract.
He's
31.
He's 31.
In 7 years, he's going to be 38 years old. So
still a stupid contract.
And put him at shortstop at 38. And for 7 years, you got Gleyber Torres. You're not going to move Simeon to second because you're planning on keeping Torres at second base. we could debate that too. But let's say they're in a perfect day. So you're gonna have an aging shortstop as Simeon. Corey Seager, they're already talking about his arm not being, losing strength on his arm for shortstop, and looking at 2 to 3 more years moving over to third base. And okay, especially that would have fit the Yankees, yes, because you have a couple of shortstops coming up in the pipeline, and you could have gotten Seager, and he's lefty, fits the stadium. But for what he had, how many years did he get for Texas?
10 years, 325 million.
Exactly. So in 10 years, so he's not going to be always 20 years in shortstop. You got to move him to third. Okay, I'm okay with that. They want to pass on that. Now Carlos Correa, I kind of, I'd rather have Carlos Correa over Trevor Story, because Trevor Story is another side swing and a miss hitter. Although Correa could be that as well, but we've seen Correa has done it really, really well, and we've seen that he's a postseason performer. And this is what
Oh yeah.
Exactly. This is what the Yankees need. They need a postseason performer. We don't mind having players around it. Like we I'm not saying, and I'm not comparing Yankee fans. Don't get me wrong. What I'm about to say. We need a postseason performer a la Reggie Jackson. I'm not saying no way, no how. Correa's no Reggie Jackson, but
No, not even close.
not even close. Don't get me wrong. But we need that kind of type of that kind of flair, that when it comes to postseason, when the lights are on, he's ready to go and he's ready to shine. That's what Carlos Correa has been in the short term here in this modern playoff history. Correa has been one of those top performers. We don't know what Story is. Story could just go in the shell. Colorado. I had
Hitter's ballpark.
a hitter's ballpark, the thin air. I had that same worried about. The same thing with DJ LeMahieu, and DJ had 2 good strong years to okay now, and we had a little bit of injury last year, so and LeMahieu won batting titles and so forth. But Story, I'm like worried. I have my reserves on Story to pay him for that money to bring him here.
And also, people, let's not have short-term memory on Andrelton Simmons. He had one bad season from the plate. Other than that, he's a career 260 hitter, which in this modern MLB is good, and with a 330 on base percentage. He hit 220 last year. I get it. It was a down year. But that's also, I'd rather have an Andrelton Simmons, a guy that if it doesn't work out, you can get out of it in 2 years. You can sign him for 2 years, $15 million, 2 years, $20 million, instead of 10 years, $325 million for a Trevor Story or Corey Seager, or $200+ million for Marcus Semien, where they're going to be old and past their prime, well over before that contract is up. But again, you have questions about all those guys. Is their arm? Is Carlos Correa going to play well outside of Houston without that, special advantage? Are all these guys going to be the same in different ballparks, different uniforms? Are they just chasing the money? All sorts of questions come when you give a guy a 10-year or $300+ million contract. You see it with Garrett Cole and Giancarlo Stanton. I'd rather be able to get out of something if it doesn't work than be committed to a guy for a decade. We learned that from A-Rod.
But here's my problem, though. You guys are the Yankees. You guys are supposed to spin. And with you guys just talking about, oh, we're okay with Simmons, it literally, especially from outsider's perspective, it sounds like you guys are settling and just to the point being happy with whatever you get, because that's how Cashman and everyone are kind of like training you to be now.
Not settling, because right now, as we see, the owners are changing their philosophy, and they're tightening their wallet. So we cannot have another Jacoby Ellsbury mistake, because I think that scared the living crap out of this new Steinbrenner regime. Because remember, that's one of their first signings. They try to be like their pops, and they got spooked. They got spooked with the Ellsbury signing. A couple signings they tried that didn't work out.
Kagawa.
Kagawa. All those
That was the
signings when
worst.
they started taking over the reins, when George gave a little bit of the reins to his kids, and he passed away. And I think they got spooked. They're like, man, I cannot be like my dad. And they go, no, I'm gonna listen to I think it's Randy Levine, and his brain trust there. We're not gonna spend. We're gonna make it a business. We're gonna profit. We'll stay under the luxury tag. We're not gonna spend. When Steinbrenner goes, I don't care. I want to win. And if you don't get me the championship, I get you the hell out of here. And he will get, the Steinbrenner.
You can't tell me George didn't make money either. George made money. Exactly.
He made money, and these kids, they're not kids; they're old men already. The Steinbrenners, it's actually his house, because Hank passed away. Hal and the Swindell family, they're making money with this team. That place, the luxury box, the and so forth. They making money, and they're just afraid. They're just afraid of another Ellsbury contract. They're afraid of making those mistakes, and they just don't want to get ridiculed. Here's another bad contract by the Yankees, and I think they're a little skeptical. And I'm not, and as a Yankee fan, we're not settling. I want Carlos Correa. I do. I want them to get Carlos Correa, but I want him at 7, 8 years, no more than that. 7 years, perhaps. If they would have, hey, heck, if they would have given the Javi Baez years, as I would have been exactly happy with that as well. The money they would have gave Javi Baez, because, like you said, we have young kids coming up in the pipeline, and the Yankees could easily move, Javi Baez and tie in some international prospect or whatever the case. They could move him when the shortstops are ready, or they want to go with the youth movement up the middle. But if they get Simmons, just think of this: Gio and Simmons on the left side of the diamond of New York. Great defensive left side of the diamond. You got you hopefully Gleyber Torres becomes a borderline all-star again, back at second base, comfortable. But if they do go with the Simmons move, Hito, and everyone that's listening to us, they gotta get Olsen or Freddie Freeman, or Rizzo. I want Rizzo back, but if they're gonna get themselves a first baseman where they're gonna control young, I would get, it's got to be, I will go get Olsen, from and Mokata from and the left-hander from Oakland. Get those
What?
two here and bring him in. Shamanaya or Mokata? What's his name? Manaya or Heel? What's his name in my screen?
Are you talking about the starting pitcher from the Oakland A's?
Yes, sir. The left-handed. I know I'm butchering his name.
Yeah, that's Shamanaya. You're right.
Shamanaya. Okay, you give me Shamanaya and Olsen, and hey, step as long as it doesn't cost me Dominguez. If you want to show and you want to give me Simmons and all, let's go. Let's talk. Open table. Let's talk about it. Let's get that there, because you got plethora of players. You got Boyd. You got Boyd. You got Anthony Below. You got Oswald Peralta. You got Luis Gil. You got there's players in there, but I will not get rid of Dominguez, not yet, not right now, because they're not going to move the needle. Now, if you're going to tell me you're going to get Luis Castillo and you want to give up Dominguez, I'm thinking about it. I'm not saying I would do it. I'm thinking about it.
But at the same time, too, why wouldn't you even think about Freddie Freeman? He's one of the best players in the game.
Yeah, but he's getting older, and I don't think he's leaving Atlanta. I think that's like Chipper Jones not leaving. I find that a fantasy if he actually leaves. It's like when Derek Jeter, actually when Bernie Williams almost signed with the Red Sox, and he came back to the Yankees. December, I don't want to go to the Red Sox, please. And the last minute, George offered him that contract, to come back. I remember that year they had him going to Arizona with Buck Showalter. He didn't ever want to leave the Yankees.
Yep.
And I think that's where Freddie Freeman is in that boat. He doesn't want to leave. He just won a World Series. He wants to go that he has a year to go to Atlanta and have that World Series, accolades. He's going to go to another team. I don't see that.
I'll say this though. Normally, hitters like Freddie Freeman that don't try to hit with power, even though he does have monster power, even though he doesn't try to hit with power necessarily, he hits more for. He's just an overall balanced hitter. Those kind of hitters do tend to age gracefully. Like, obviously their power and contact will decline, but they do age gracefully, so they're much less of a risk. And on top of that, he's a first baseman, so you can move him to DH in the future.
Yeah, especially being American League instead, he could be DH.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
so maybe
they're talking about Freddie Freeman, the Yankees, and I'm like, I got to believe it to see it, because I don't.
If that happens, I'm excited.
I'm excited too. You give me Freeman. Yeah. You give me a Gold Glove first baseman. Either Olsen, Rizzo, or Freeman at first base. Gold Glove first baseman. You're giving me Simmons and Urshela. That defense is going to be much better, much more improved. And Torres is going to be the wild card. And I think Torres will be played much better. His offense will be much greater. He's more comfortable at second base. And now you're looking at like a strong infield.
Don't forget DJ LeMahieu as well.
Yeah, DJ. Look at that. I didn't even think about. I forgot all about DJ. You can move him around, jack of all trades. Depending on matchup, you move him around.
And then if you have Simmons, Gio, DJ, and a Freddie Freeman or any of those three mentioned, that's the best defensive infield in baseball.
Right, and if Gleyber Torres has to be in a package to bring you Luis Castillo, hey, and
You
you don't
do
have to
it.
give up a Jason Dominguez,
You do it.
you got to, because now you're bringing a pitcher, a start, another one, a 1-2 punch there. Yeah. I personally gonna be honest. I love Gleyber Torres. I'm a Gleyber Torres fan. I like Gleyber Torres. Despite him having these rough 2 seasons, I
Yeah,
just
can't
follow
stand.
him. I just follow him outside of the baseball. I know the kind. From and his father is a good friend on Twitter. We have tweeted a couple times. Not know him. I don't know them, but just an interaction. They look like a nice family, good family. But I know it's a result generated. What have you done for me lately? But I am really hard for Torres. I would like him to be here and do well for with the Yankees. But if Luis Castillo, you're telling me you're going to bring a possibility of ace and Luis Castillo and Torres is part of it, yeah, I got to think about that. Or even if I'm going to get Olsen and Manaya back, Manaya and Torres, Andujar and Voigt, and you want to throw Oswald in there for them and a blockbuster, you might give me another reliever or something from Oakland. I'm thinking about that as well.
Yeah,
If
got a lot of flexibility there.
someone needs to wake up Brian Cashman and tell him, hey, there's still a lot, even though a lot of free agents have been flying off the board, there's still, let's just say this, especially since they're just coming off of Thanksgiving, there's still a lot left. There's still a lot left over. Sorry for my stutter. Like, there's Chris Bryant out there, Freddie Freeman, my Olsen's on the trade block, Clayton Kershaw. I mean, there's still some good free agents out there that he could consider going after, or even trade pieces.
Yep. The only one I'd stay away from that you just mentioned is Clayton Kershaw. I don't want that guy.
No,
Not in the
neither do
freshman
I.
year.
Really?
Yeah.
Not.
Thank you.
He's one of the worst playoff performers for a guy like his stature. He's terrible in the playoffs, man. You
And
think
New
he's
York would eat
bad in
him
LA?
alive.
Imagine that New York pressure.
Yeah, New York would eat him alive. Although, if he's out there, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if the Mets come calling, because now he's the third fiddle. He don't really pressure off, or even you put him in there, in that rotation. That might be a
Okay.
nice rotation for the Mets.
If the Mets get Kershaw, I never want to hear from Yankees fans again. That's the greatest rotation in arguably baseball history. DeGrom, Scherzer, Kershaw, Walker.
We got to see that first. We got to see that first, because the greatest rotation is the Atlanta Braves. Those four, and they didn't. And you saw what the Yankees did to them.
Honestly, too, the Baltimore Orioles, the only team ever with 4 20-win pitchers. That's the best rotation ever. The only team ever with 4 20-win pitchers in one season. And that will never be repeated again. Never.
True. No, that's true. Absolutely correct.
Jim Palmer.
You can get upset about it, but you can get upset about it. But at the end of the day, the Mets, I mean, that's the thing about it too. Like, I hate to be the guy, but New York is slowly turning into Mets territory, and that it is
hilarious. They got Lindor.
That's
it didn't
the
happen.
Mets haven't won since 1986, my friend. 1986.
No. The reason why I say it is slowly, or at least now, I mean, look at what they've done this offseason already. It's scary.
Okay, it was scary when they got Lindor and Baez. What happened? It was scary when they scary when they had DeGrom and Syndergaard. What happened? I already knew, but it doesn't matter how bad the Yankees are. It's just like the basketball thing. The Brooklyn Nets got all these people, but it's never going to be their town.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not to take it to basketball. Just an example. New York will always be a Yankees town.
Baez was a bit of a iffy pick. I mean, even though he did kind of step it up. But Lindor, I think he'll come back from next year. That was just him trying to get comfortable to the area and everything like that. So I can agree with the Yankee fans if they want to be like, hey, Baez with the dumb pickup. Like, well, I mean, even though he wasn't necessarily like dumb, he was just kind of like there as a player. But you get the point.
No, we get that there, but let me ask this: Do you think the Yankees move Gallo? I mean, they might send Gallo to Oakland for in the part of the Olsen deal, and
I don't
because you guys, Texas is paying for his contract. It's not like the Yankees have him on the books. They could keep him just for as a rental and just keep him there, because They really not have to pay them. When you know,
I can hear this going both ways in terms of like, yeah, the Yankees might decide to keep him because they're not paying him nothing. But I can also hear the other side where it's like, yeah, trade him because we're not paying him nothing. And plus, the Oakland A's especially might see high value in him because he is, a guy that is great defensively and can get on base. So I can see the argument for either one.
right?
It's a good
And
argument
and
either
the
way.
Oakland after the Athletics has seen him from being part of the division. I'm pretty sure he has good numbers against Oakland when he was with the Rangers and so forth. And like you said, that's a big ballpark with for Gallo, who could cover ground, who is a really good a really good defensive outfielder. Despite the fact he dropped that pop up in Camden Yards, I mean, in Wrigley, no, in in Boston in Fenway, when he dropped that in that playoff in that clinching game, it was laughable. But other than that, he's a really good. I was very impressed. I wasn't impressed with his bats, and I think he needs a laser guide correction for his vision, or if his tick, or his nervous tick doesn't allow him to see the ball when he's blinking. I don't know what it is when he strikes out a lot. But other than that, defensively, I was very impressed with Gallo. I was very impressed, pleasantly impressed, and happy the way he played the outfield for the Yankees. Just hopefully they could package him, along, maybe, and send them out. I think Oakland is available. I think Oakland is open for business. We saw Bob Melvin. They told him that you could go to the Padres, because they're going to trade, they're going to move players, and they're open for business. I think Oakland is open for business. Everyone else around the division got much stronger, and I don't think Oakland could compete, staying in there, being relevant. So we shall see if the Yankees and Cashman likes doing these type of trades, doing these type of deals. He gets some moves. He does some moves there. We might not. We want to see activity. We want to see a lot of the old Yankee Cashman when Steinbrenner was like, "You better go get him and go. The wallet is open, get it." But if he's got restrictions, he's not gonna throw his boss under the bus and say, "I want to sign players, but this guy's being a cheapskate. He's not letting me." So he's not gonna put. Remember, Cashman has been with the organization for over close to 35 years, man. He's been with them for a long time, and he's like and he's not going to throw them under the bus. He has job security here. Even if he let's say next year they want to go a different direction, he'll still be part of the organization some way somehow. So with that said, I hope he gets, like Maria said, I hope the Yankees get pitching. We shall see.
Kev, do you think now thinking about it, do you think that could be a problem with the Yankees? Maybe Cashman does want to make the right moves, but he's just not getting the green light from the owners, saying here's how much you could spend, kid. Go have fun. You think
I
that could
believe
be a
that's
problem?
yeah. I believe that's a problem. And also he's also thinking about in a couple of years. In a year, they got it. They want to sign Aaron Judge. They want to extend him. It sucks for them sending. Let's say they go ahead and spend all this money on Simeon, or all these shortstops that left, and means they can't. They're gonna have to let Judge walk. How the Yankee fans are gonna take that? They're not gonna take that well. They're gonna, because we got Stan. We got Stan. He plays the same amount. He plays the same position, and he got the same amount of money. We'll let Aaron Judge walk. And I know it worked for Mookie Betts and the Red Sox, but the Yankee brass cannot sell that to the fan base. No whatsoever.
You know what
Yeah,
it also
the
could
Red
be
Sox
as
are.
well? To take that same narrative and kind of flip it, maybe now that George is not there, to sit there and say, "Get me this player, you have no choice," or "Get me this, you have no choice." Maybe Cashman went to the Steinbrenner family and was like, "Hey, I can run things this way, make you more money, and still win championships." Maybe this is the way Brian Cashman wanted to be a general manager all along.
Could be. That's a good point. That's an excellent
Yeah,
point, because because he has, because all since for the past 15, 10 years, this has been his imprint. Not for nothing. One thing that we don't give him credit is the way they rebuild quickly. They rebuilt exactly really quick. Especially when they traded Andrew Miller, Aroldis Chapman, so forth, and they brought up Sanchez, and Sanchez was a hot pistol that the Yankees almost sneaked into the wild card game while rebuilding. And then we saw what happened in 2017, and whatever, the rest is history. But Cashman rebuilt this quick, and I'm not saying he's gonna. The Yankees are not in no way no rebuild. They're just. We just got to see. We're as fan base, we're being antsy of because we're not seeing them retool. Salute to Jerome, salute Correa. So Jerome, so you're all in on Correa, Jerome, and I see he's all in on Correa. Awesome.
Yeah, because like, listen, like, rather you think they're flukes or what, like, you got to go in and fight a way to compete, not only against the Mets now, but now against your whole entire division, which is going to be a difficult thing to do. And on top of that, we got to find out what the problem is, why it is. Cashman is kind of like, I guess you can say, going in slow motion on making moves. Who knows why? Maybe it is just Cashman. I don't know. Or maybe, I don't know. But
Maybe
I
he just
mean,
doesn't like the players of this class of free agents. We do, but
there's no way you can't find at least one player like him. This free agency is stacked. If you don't find at least one player to like, I don't know what to say about you.
I know. I'm not saying that. Maybe he doesn't like the
Yeah.
money, and maybe he has deals in place, and they're just waiting for this collective bargaining agreement to announce it. And because you're telling me he's going in the offseason not knowing who's their shortstop. From the minute they got eliminated, the minute they told Gabriel Torres you're going to second base, they already had a plan of what they were going to do in the offseason to get a shortstop. You get this is the New York Yankees. You're telling me they had to have a plan who's going to be the next shortstop. One, who's going to be the next shortstop, who's going to make sense defensively, play well, and also who's going to sell tickets and who's going to continue bringing in and drawing merchandise, new jerseys. And that's why I agree with Jerome Peralta. Correa signs with the Yankees, guarantee that jersey and Models will be sold out for the next 3 weeks once he signs it. Whatever number he chooses for the Yankees, that you will not be able to find that in Models for a while.
Yeah.
Also,
And that, oh, go ahead.
another reality to bring out there. Before the core four was ready, they treaded water with rentals, with guys like what we're doing right now. Maybe Dominguez, maybe Heel, maybe all these guys are their next core four, and they're waiting till they're ready and treading water with guys that make us competent and sort of fake contenders until these guys are ready. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, real quick, breaking news: Corey Knebel signs with the Philadelphia former. Now the Dodgers lost a reliever. Wow, 2 point. He won 2.5 ERA with 25 innings, 30 strikeouts and 9 walks. Wow. So he joins Joe Girardi, gets a bullpen arm from the Dodgers. Whoa.
On
Sorry to break
top
that
of
news.
that, Chris Taylor went back to the Dodgers. So that's good news for them. If you didn't know
Wow.
that.
Well, go. I didn't know that. I didn't know Chris Taylor would
Yeah.
return.
4 years, I think it was 60 mil, somewhere around there.
Wow. Oof.
So at least they got one player back.
Yeah, if they signed him for a 1-year deal, a $10 million contract. So not bad for the Phillies. The Fighting Phils, Girardi got some more bullpen arms. It'll be interesting to see. Another bullpen arm that's out there the Mets didn't tender was Robert Gesellman. He's out there on the market. They didn't give him a contract, so look for him. To sign. He'll be really, really, really a nice piece for bullpen arm down who could eat innings.
Not for nothing. I just want to put this out there that baseball contracts are ungodly amounts of money. Fully guaranteed. It's ridiculous how much money we're talking about right now, guys.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
I always said like when and if I have a son, I'm gonna try my hardest to get him into baseball because that's where the money's at. Yeah,
that's where the money's at, and that's where the least injury is at, the least labor-intensive sport. Even though it's a great sport, and I'm not downing baseball. You guys obviously know because we're here how much I love baseball, but it's the best option to make money.
It really is. Like
you don't got to beat your brains in and risk CTE. You don't got to ruin your knees until you're 20 years in. I don't know. It's crazy.
Did Kelly Jansen still a free agent? I'm not too sure if he's still out there.
Yeah, he's a free agent. Kelly Jansen.
Right. They talked about him going to Toronto, possibly.
I haven't heard any rumors about him quite yet, but I think there are a few teams out there that he might be interested, obviously, because I mean, it is Kenley. If I'm the Angels, I'm going after Kenley. Iglesias and Kenley for 1-2 punch at the bullpen. That'd be nice.
That's a nice, yeah. They need it too. They definitely need it. And still no name, now Schwarber's getting traction with the Rays, but I don't see the Rays spending money for Schwarber. I thought he was going back to Boston.
Well, the Rays are even spending money. They got Wander Franco that huge contract, like two. I can't remember the exact amount, like 200 mil, something like that. Or
I have it on the ticker. Give me a minute. I'll give it.
Yeah, for like
first player to play under a full season and get a 10-year contract.
12-year contract.
Like
12 years,
180 man. Yeah, holy! When I saw that, I was like, "Where did this come from? You guys are supposed to be the Rays." I'm like, "Okay, then."
Did somebody brainwash him?
Steve Cohen Jr. is a new owner of the Rays.
Well, now John Heyman tweeted, Mets, Angels, Padres are showing interest in Chris Bryant.
Okay.
That's interesting.
The Mets sound interesting because then they can trade. J.D. Davis and all that. They get Chris Bryant.
J.D. Davis, Don Smith.
Yeah, and I know my Rangers are interested in Matt Olson. The Braves and my team, the Rangers, were the last ones to be rumored.
Do you think Oakland will trade with Texas for?
We done it before. It can happen again.
So that rivalry ain't that too much of a heated rivalry.
It is, but at the same time, Oakland knows who they are, and we know who we are. Oakland likes our prospects, and we like to, and we like their stars.
Okay. And just to let you know, Austin Romine is a free agent.
Say that again.
Austin Romine is a free agent from the Cubs.
Go get him right now. I miss Austin Romine. He was a great defensive catcher, and he was a better underrated hitter with the Yankees. I like him a lot.
And I would love to break out my homie, hits one to center field.
Yeah, and you also see my dog Ace really likes that Austin Romine idea.
I can see that. I can see Ace wants that. He's telling Cashman to sign him.
Pay attention, Brian.
So, let me ask this question. 12 o'clock tonight. I hope we don't hear the words that it's going to happen. The lockout. How long do you think this lockout's going to last? Is it going to be something detrimental as we saw in 93, excuse me, or 94? No.
94, yeah.
I'm saying it right now. Bronx Sports Jedi Network's going to play for the Yankees. Heel, you're going to be designated hitter. I'll play third or first. We'll be replacement. Kev can play wherever he wants. We'll be replacement players for the Yankees. One can only hope, right?
For the contracts they're getting today, I'll play anywhere for the Yankees.
I'll play for 2% of that contract.
Hey, heck, I'll even play for the Rays. I don't have to go too far in that stuff.
Marlins?
I'll make more money in tax. Yeah, I'd rather play for the Marlins. Cheater. Yeah. Hey,
yeah, but you probably draw more fans.
I'd rather go to I'd rather go to Miami. I want to always anyway. So yeah, definitely. So we got Nick. This is the free agents: Nick Castellanos, Clayton Kershaw, George Soler, Jorge Soler, excuse me, Kyle Schwarber, and Anthony Rizzo are all out there still. I think personally, I think they're going to sign Rizzo, but they're telling him hold off for a minute. I'm going to see what we're expecting. We're going to see explore a trade. We're going to try to get pitching. I think that's the move the Yankees right now is for sure, and they haven't. I think that's what. And Michael Conforto's out there, but I personally, I know you said Conforto for the Yankees. I don't want Conforto. I'm sorry.
Well, right now for the Yankees, the best player on that board for them, if I'm cashing, I'm going after Chris Bryant. He can play first, third, left, right, and center. Having that utility guy with the guys that you could potentially sign, that'd be a nice pick. I know he's a righty, but that's his only flaw, literally.
Yeah, but if you get a Chris Bryant, yeah, you could put first, third, but you really got DJ LeMahieu on there. Though. I mean, I know that
Yeah,
LeMahieu
but
doesn't play the corner outfields. I get that.
even if you have LeMahieu play second or third again, like you said, you can have Chris Bryant move to the outfield.
Maria, phenomenal Maria. Great comment of the night. If replacement players, Maria will play with.
Is she talking about baseball still? I
Yeah,
gotta
that's what I was like.
ask.
I was like, is anyone pick up what I'm thinking? It's like that one meme, whatever. In what way? like, yeah. But yeah, sign Chris Bryant and bit back Rizzo. You know, on the Yankees. I think Yankee fans will really like that.
Be the New York Cubs.
The New York Cubs.
Yeah,
Oh man.
there's also pitch. Now, pitch. Let's talk about the pitching. I think the only Yankees would add pitching is via trade. I don't see them. There's no sexy free agent pitchers out there that you wanna bring in here. Out there, and there wasn't really anyone besides Scherzer and Verlander. Other than that, and they were aging pitchers. Nothing there to write home about, if you ask me.
Yeah,
They
they
were.
Clayton Kershaw, but he ain't worth it.
No.
They're good pitchers. They're future Hall of Famers. So I wouldn't say they're nothing, or or something like anything like that. Like they're again,
At
those
this
three
point
are
in
Hall
their
of
career,
Famers right there.
at this
Yeah,
point in
but
their career, they're not worth
Yeah.
it.
yeah, but if the Yankees would have
Well,
signed them, they would have been like, there goes the Yankees signing players what they used to do, but what they were before, and they're gonna give them a bunch of money for what they used to be, and then when it comes to the Yankees, they'll turn into Kevin Brown.
well, I get that, but it's different. Like, here's one thing I don't think a lot of old school baseball fans get: this generation of baseball is a lot more athletic than it ever used to be.
Oh
And on
yes.
top of that, like the pitchers, for some reason, if they actually know genuinely like how to pitch, they can have a very long career. Like not necessarily like a Nolan Ryan type of career where they pitch well into like 44, 45, but they can pitch well into their 40s, at least like 41 or 40.
Well, that's not well into
So,
their 40s, but and also none of those guys
well, yeah,
none of these guys are going to be as durable as the pitchers back then because you got to think those pitchers that threw 20 years back then also threw well over 200 innings every year. There's no such thing as 5 innings and you're out, 6 innings and you're out. If you're a dominant pitcher back then, you're throwing 7, 8, 9 innings every start. It's different. It's different. Those guys were built different. None of these new guys are built that way anymore.
No, you're not gonna
well,
get a 10 inning playoff performance from a Jack Morris ever again.
No, or even just recent memory, Jackson with that almost 170 pitch no hitter. I mean, you're not getting that again.
Ooh, so according to
yeah.
Mark Berman, the agents for free agent shortstop Carlos Correa has heard from the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Braves, and the Red Sox, and all offered 5 years only. So
5 years
5 years,
only. I
and
mean, that's
that's
about
it.
all he's gonna get.
They offered him 5 years and 160 million was the offer, and that was offered by the Astros last month. So look for Correa to probably get maybe one
200
more
million.
maybe just 200 million, just maybe 225 million.
Over 7.
7 years, 7 years. I think so. I think you're right. I think that's the
If
number.
you
And that's exactly what you
if
wanted,
you,
Bronx. Am I wrong?
Exactly. Yes, I did.
That Bronx luck, baby. That Bronx luck. Yeah, that force.
And that's by Mark Berman. He just tweeted that out.
Yeah, Mark Berman, everybody's favorite.
If he goes to the Yankees, that's going to be one of the most awkward, but also good signings ever. Because like I just imagine his first plate appearance. Boo! You're not better than Jeter. Hits a home run. And it's like, well,
He'll never be better than Jeter.
okay. Well, no. You get what I mean, though, for what he said. And then it's like, well, and then fans will be like, well, okay, never mind. You're still good, but you're here now, so
He'll never be
can't
close to
really
the
hate.
caliber of player Derek Jeter was.
He's a
Yankee
better
fans will
defender.
forever hate
Fun
him for
fact.
that. Huh?
He's a better defender. Fun fact.
No, he's not.
I
Here
said,
you go,
All right,
analytical
yeah.
BS again.
let's not go back to
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Hamster wheel of turds there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Chris Taylor got a 4 year, 60 million, and a 5 years option for the Dodgers. You're right there, Heel. That was a good one there. Good call there. Wow, a lot of movement because it's still, we might break something here because every teams are gonna want to try to before this lockout and this stoppage to try to sign or get people under the before we, like I said, we don't know what this bargain agreement might be. I hope they have an amnesty clause. I hope they allow one player for each team to amnesty a contract because we don't know who's going to get amnesty on the Yankees immediately.
Yeah, I got a good question for the both of you. In the
Mm-hmm.
new bargaining agreement, do you think there should be some type of rule where free agents should sign at a specific date, like maybe like after like before the next year or something like that? Because like I noticed a lot of people I think are more entertained by free agency when free agents are just flying more off the board instead of waiting like Harper and Machado did and sign all the way until basically almost into spring training.
Or like when Dallas Keuchel did that, or Craig Kimbrell, or those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, there needs to be a
Would you
limit.
guys? Yeah.
There also, I know it sucks. A lot of people don't like it, but there needs to be a salary cap. Like I know
No,
there's a luxury tax, but there needs to be a salary.
No.
no,
Make it
no,
I
competitive.
know.
no. Get out of
No.
here.
Make it competitive.
That's
So
what.
what? So the
No.
Yankees don't lose, don't win like the way the Giants and and the Giants,
No.
the Knicks, everybody else,
Thank
everybody
you,
hit.
Kev.
Oh, no. Get out of here.
That's what makes baseball so fun to talk about over a
I
lot
just
of
wanted to say
sports.
that
It's
to see
because
the
Get
reaction.
out
You
of
yeah,
don't
here.
want a salary
Get
cap
out
in
of
okay.
here.
there.
So,
Man,
I just
I gotta
so I was
see
about
the
to
Green
say, I'm
Bay.
like, what,
I gotta see a Green Bay every year, always in the title game. When maybe they can't even get a real owner to own a team. They gotta go past. They gotta
yeah,
do have a GoFundMe account so everyone could chip in Green Bay so the team could be alive. Get out of here with that.
because
Out of here.
for anyone that doesn't understand why some people love baseball, it's because of the magic of no one truly knows how to win.
Mm-hmm.
All people know is you put a team out there and hope for the best. Like,
Yep.
so that's seriously it. Like, because you can sign all-star after all-star, but if they're not clicking in, like, seriously any way, that team would just fall apart, like the Padres did in
No,
2015.
I said that as
Like,
a joke
literally.
because
Or something like
I
that.
know. That's why
Yeah.
I
I
give you
was
that.
seeing a lot of
That's why I give you
people.
that bitter old
Yeah.
man
I
reaction.
was seeing a lot of people that have been saying that over the past couple weeks with this collective bargaining agreement that there should be a salary cap. Like, are you
Yeah.
joking? Ugh.
Now you're really
Yeah.
gonna kill
Yeah,
baseball.
that
No one's
would.
really gonna watch it.
Yeah,
Well, people would still
exactly.
watch. It just
Yeah,
would be
watch it, but
strange
they
to be like,
won't.
oh yeah. It just
Yeah,
won't be as fun to
like
talk about that
like
much.
you're gonna have World Series. And no disrespect to your respected team, but that was not a great ratings World Series. It was not. That ratings were horrific.
That
Braves
Yeah, because everybody hates the Astros
and Astros.
and the Dodgers, and they hate all
Well,
these other teams.
the
I know,
Dodgers will give you some eyeballs though. The
I
Dodgers.
know they weren't in it, but I just mean I don't know. It's
But if you
just like
got
the teams.
Braves and Astros, it's like
Who cares?
no, or Milwaukee. You're gonna tell me you're gonna have a Milwaukee and a Braves World Series or a National World Series? It's not. It's not. It's not. I mean, it's not
but
gonna give the buzz.
it's the story that's created after all that though. Why baseball's so amazing. It's like so for example, after the Astros got caught with what they did or whatever, it's like what made this postseason so interesting. It's like, oh, all these teams that made it had some sort of beef with the Astros in some sort of way. So who's gonna eliminate them? Oh, that's right. Nobody. So now it's down to the
Wait.
Braves who basically, you know, who are basically like the underdogs coming in. Let's be honest, because like you have the Astros who are good at the bullpen, good on offense, good on defense, if not one of the best defensive team, and then they just have everything. Then you have the Braves who you're just hoping can stay clicking in the World Series, and then they find a way to beat the evil monster, I guess you could say,
I
and
like how you
that
said with
everyone
what
wanted a
they
piece
did or
of.
whatever.
And,
I like how you didn't just
well, I
outright
mean,
say that they cheated because you know they cheated.
they didn't
You
cheat
didn't
in the
say
World
with what they
Series.
did
Well,
or
they cheated in the
whatever,
regular season.
huh?
I talked about. Point is, I talked about it so much times.
With
You
what they
already
did
know.
or
Like
whatever.
yeah, it's whatever. That's why I said whatever. Point is, we're going into 2022, folks. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's why they haven't
if you
won.
don't know what they did at this point, They still made the World Series more times than the Yankees, so I don't want to hear
Yeah,
it.
but did they win?
They almost did in 2019.
Almost.
And,
Almost.
yeah. Point is, though, closer to the Yankees, so obviously my front office is doing something right. The year isn't, so I don't want to hear
Yeah,
it.
using trash cans and buzzers
In the short term, yes, but
and
in the
bugs.
history of the world of
And
the sport, no.
Wow,
no,
they
they
won.
they used one in 2017, but again, 5, possibly 6 straight ALCSs next year. I don't know, man.
Does that
I
That's
don't want
gonna
to
count?
be
borrow that
tough. That's
trash
gonna be
can.
tough. That's gonna be tough for you to. Well,
Yeah.
though,
If
I
if
wouldn't
I'm
be
being
surprised.
honest with the Yankee fans, though, they might want to borrow our trash can because, like, when you're letting the Mets overtake you, we got problems in New York now.
They
I'm
still
just
haven't
saying.
overtaken anything. They had a worse record than us.
The
They
Mets,
didn't
the
make the
Mets,
playoffs.
the Mets. You know
Next
what?
season. I'm
Even
talking about next season, by the way.
if the Mets have a good year next season, all it's gonna do is just it's just gonna make the Yankees elevate their team better. And it's better when the Yankees do when the Mets are good anyway because it also elevates the team. That when the Mets lost when they went to the ALCS and lost on that to the Braves the year before going to the World Series, the Yankees went out and they started getting more play. They had what was it? They added even added Jose Canseco for God's sakes in the waiver wire, and they kept adding more players because the Mets were competitive, and we played them in that World Series and we destroyed them. But other than that, that also provides the Yankees more fuel to want to continue to put a better product than the Mets. Steve Cohen's got money, and but they're in shambles. The Mets, and I don't know how here you could stay here right now and say we got to be worried about the Yankees. I mean, the Mets are overtaking the Yankees. They don't even have a manager, for God's sakes. Who's going to manage this team? They don't even have a manager. They haven't even announced a manager.
Well, they didn't
They
have a
just got
manager at the start.
right, and
Oh,
they
sorry.
just got a general manager recently. They went around to all different. No disrespect. They went to all the soup kitchens to see who had a pulse to be a general manager of this team. Nobody wanted to be the GM for the Mets. They don't want to name a because every GM they bring here, they get in trouble. They either pervert, or they like to drink, and drive, and all that stuff. They just make the wrong decisions, and I think no, Steele Epstein did not want to take this job. Nobody, it's like no, thank you. The other executives around baseball, no, thank you. And they're in trouble in that front office right now. Yeah, Billy Epper, good luck. And that's why I said you cannot say that they overtake the Yankees. They put players around, yes, but you know what they say: the fish rots from the head down, and if the head in our head organization is not good right now, what makes you think it's not going to ruin what's on the product on the field? That's what I'm surprised. That's why I think it took Scherzer from the skill and all that money. That 3-year deal. I don't, because you telling me the Dodgers would offer him close, he would have probably taken the Dodgers money.
Yeah, I mean, it's and you just got done saying that you can put a team of all stars together and you still can't win, and that's exactly what the Mets are every single time they do this big splash. They never win, so it is what it is. The Mets aren't going to do nothing.
Hey, I personally want the Mets to do good this year. I don't have no
I
ill
don't.
ill will with the New York Mets. Or when they're good, it just makes baseball in New York even more enjoyable to watch.
Nah, I like them being our AAA team.
Yeah, it gets ridiculous seeing them lose. That year when Mickey Callaway was they started off really good. It was nice, and then they went to crap. It's just embarrassing because it's because the media loves to show empty City Field. How terrible it looks, and they love to placate how it looks, dysfunctional and all that. Me personally, I don't. It's all right to see the Mets being really, okay, really good. I know. Call me whatever. It's just whatever it is. I just don't want to see them being, totally dysfunctional and really terrible. I just, they're competitive. It's all right. It's good because it just gives the buzz for the New City of New York, just to see both. They all support both baseball teams, and They showed it. They shown it year after years that when both teams are competitive, it's just an extra juice. The summer goes really, it's like a special summer in New York for all the folks. And I don't live in New York for the past 16 years, but I remember, that in those 90s, those teams, it was fun time because you go to Yankee Stadium and then the Mets are doing well. You watch. I remember, watching the Yankees at 1 o'clock, then the Mets will play at 7, or vice versa, because they're both good competitive baseball teams, and it was good to watch. And that to me, I'd like when both. I personally like when both New York teams are really good baseball clubs, and have an opportunity to be both in the a chance to get into the postseason because it makes it interesting.
Heel? Anything on
Heel,
that?
did I heel fell asleep?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna short delay.
Ah,
So
got
if
you.
I will occasionally or like that, I'm sorry. Like, so that first time Zach that I cut you off, you got a little mad at me. It wasn't my fault.
No, I wasn't mad at you. I was heated about you talking just blasphemy about Derek Jeter. I wasn't mad about cutting off. That was just blasphemy. It's all good, Hill.
The Red Sox came to agreement with left-handed pitcher Rich Hill. So the Red Sox made a move. Rich Hill. Batting practice, Rich Hill is going to be playing. Wow.
Do they want Andrew Heaney while they're at
Oh,
it?
Andrew Heaney went right to the Anaheim Angels. That was one of their big splashes in the offseason. Wow. Huh.
Some teams
Boston.
just never fail to make me laugh.
Boston strong there.
I
Wow.
like
Those
playing
Red
devil's
Sox.
advocate.
Mm-hmm.
I like playing. I like playing devil's advocate, and they weren't exactly bad in practice last year, right now, were they?
What, Rich Hill? One Mississippi, two Mississippi. All right.
Having trouble hearing you guys.
Yeah, me too. Hill, you sounded really low, but he said Rich Hill. Wow, Boston traded Eduardo Rodriguez for Rich Hill, pretty much. If you ask me, there.
That's terrible. Rodriguez was a solid young arm that had some good years. I mean, injuries, okay, I get it, but Rich Hill, 40-plus-year-old, pretty much slow pitch softball. Rich Hill, are you kidding me?
He's gonna soft toss them with some Metamucil.
It's like Tim Wakefield, but without the knuckleball.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. So right now, I guess we'll leave the podcast here at 2 hours and 14 plus. We'll stop it here as Heel stepped out for a minute. Let's wait for Heel to return back to say goodbye, and we'll end the podcast here on Heel returns, and we'll say goodnight to him when he returns. Hopefully, he gets his technical difficulties corrected. You know. So we enjoy Heel here, but he's having always a little bit of typical difficulties with his streaming. But Z,
Yeah.
talk to me about what do you want this team? What are you looking forward to in 2022 here with this New York with our ball club?
Well, it all depends on what happens the rest of free agency, right? The lockout, all that extra stuff. But if they continue the path they're going right now, then I'm looking forward to a youth movement. I'm looking forward to seeing what our prospects have. I'm looking forward to some competition for some starting spots, that center field spot. That I'm looking for an open competition for some spots. Doesn't matter if we have Aaron Hicks here on the big deal. If there's a young guy that's better, the open competition deal. I'm looking for that. If we get some good free agents, we get some big name guys, if we get a Correa, if we get whoever, then obviously I'm excited about how they fit the team. And, I wouldn't say excited, I'm more anger, but I'm also sort of cautiously excited about how Aaron Boone bounces back from such a bad season as manager and just constantly being ragged on by me and you and everybody just because he does some buffoon plays. I'm looking to see what he did, what he changed. What is he doing different? Is there any adjustments he made? That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the identity of this team, and it's still far from over. Until spring training comes up, want to see what kind of their identity is. I want to see what kind of identity this team is going to be. There's still a lot to be done to desire to be put there. Garrett Cole was a batting practice in the walk. Yeah, I see blue. He was. He wasn't really good there on there. Wow, I'm looking right now real quick. The Mets rotation: Deivi Garcia, Matt Scherzer, Taiwan Walker, Cookie Carrasco. Wow, that's a pretty good potent pitching
Yeah.
staff. Yeah, because now you could put Lugo. I know Lugo doesn't want to be in the bullpen, but you're gonna keep Lugo in the bullpen there. Oh wow! I just looked at that. Sorry, again, I just looked over the MLB and it just caught my eye. Like, wow, that's a strong rotation for the Mets there. And if they add Kershaw, like they're thinking about, whew, wow,
They're scary.
yeah,
See,
yeah. On paper, they're scary. No, I'm not purporting it, but that's wrong. That's there. They goes. Here it is. Aaron Boone has done nothing. Big waste of garbage.
She's right. I just meant, like, I'm not defending him, Maria, but all I meant by that was, how does he bounce back? Because, like, I've been fans of teams with just clown on managers or coaches, and it's like, how do they bounce back from that? This was his worst year. How does he bounce back? It's exciting to see what he's gonna, if he does anything differently, especially after getting that new contract.
Right, and I know
he is their biggest offseason move. So
could be. Also, the coaching staff. They brought in a whole new coaching staff in here. Luis Rojas is the third base coach. We haven't heard who's the hitting coach, but what kind of philosophy would their hitting coach bring to the New York Yankees in spring training? Especially if they, like you said, Zach, if they go into youth movement, that's going to be interesting to see what kind of hitting instruction they want to implement. And maybe they, show what maybe Gary Sanchez, behind the plate. Obviously, Boom is tied in with Sanchez together at the hip because Boom returned and they tendered him and they brought him back. Guaranteed that's one of the conversations they had there. And that was one of the reasons why the New York Yankees did a managerial change because they backed Sanchez over Girardi. Girardi was, he was a catcher. He knows what it takes to play that position and what the responsibilities and the hustle. And he got into it Sanchez and Sanchez went in the front office. And not only that, they wanted, wasn't a good communicator, wasn't whatever the case was, whatever excuses they put is because of Sanchez. And you see that Boom returns and Sanchez gets tendered. So they're going to be together at the hip. I think the Yankees' success or Boom's managerial success rides on Gary Sanchez, if you ask me.
Then he'll be fired at the end of the season. We hope the best for everybody in a Yankee uniform. Just jokes.
Let's see. They gave him a contract. Let's see what he does different next year. Yeah, Maria. I definitely want to see. Man, I would like someone just to work. I would like for him. And it's not going to happen because you had Tony Pena here, and that was also another frustrating part. Go ahead. Go give us the breaking news.
Nick Martinez that just signed with the San Diego Padres for, I believe, 4 years, $20 million.
Which Martinez?
Really good in over there in Asia.
Nick
Martinez. He did really good in Asia. Now he signed with them.
So the Padres adding more depth to that team.
Yeah.
And right before the lockout too.
Yep.
Yeah,
trying to shore up some.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at refresh before we get going out of here to see what anything else came on. Any other more breaking news? But Keel with that breaking news, good job there. Showing nothing here. The Cubs now are interested in Carlos Correa. That'll be interesting. It wouldn't make no sense because you gave away your shortstop and now you're going to sign one for a big contract. You should have bought your old shortstop back.
Yeah, the one you developed and everything about.
And he played well in your city. Didn't really want to leave your city.
Won a championship in your city.
Yeah, and he was a free agent. You could have bought him back, so it didn't make no sense. Oh, one other note I forgot to mention: James Paxton signed with the Red Sox for $10 million 1 year deal. Yes, indeed. I forgot to mention that.
Talk about batting practice.
James Paxton is a Red Sox for 1 year deal, $10 million.
Batting practice.
Yeah. So the wonderful Yankee Red Sox rivalry is going to have Chris Sale, James Paxton, Evaldi, Rich Hill, and Micah Waka. That's the
Waka Flocka Flame.
Yeah. But Rocca sucks against everyone, but he somehow, some reason, when he sees the pinstripes, he pitches well. But it's gonna be on the Red Sox uniform, so hopefully something different, a different outcome.
Yeah, and the Rays with Corey Kluber and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they signed Kluber for a few $1 million less than the Yankees
I think it was
had
like
him.
1 year, $8 million, right?
Yeah, $1 million a year, but with a lot of incentives. Which he's not gonna go that. Yeah. Me and you have a better chance.
Don't worry, we still have Jameson Tyone. Don't you worry.
He's gonna be okay. He didn't
I
pitch
hope
bad
so.
in the
I
second
hope
half,
so.
But the thing is with Tyone, if we had if let's say we get a strong, pitching rotation, like I said, they get Luis Castillo and they get Sean Manaea from Oakland, and you got those two with Cole, Montgomery, Tyone. That's not a bad.
Severino, Herman.
Severino, I forgot about Severino because I just Herman. You could push Herman back into the bullpen, to bolster your bullpen, and don't forget Luis Gil. Luis Gil is gonna have I don't, he's gonna have a say. I'm trying to make the rotation as well. If he's not traded in one of these trades, you also have, Michael King. And you also the other young player, the other pitcher the Yankees had as well.
Wandy Peralta.
Peralta's not coming back. As Joey Rodriguez is back.
Oh, sorry, Joe. That's what I was thinking of.
They signed Joey Rodriguez. They didn't. I don't think they haven't. He's still a free agent. Doesn't mean that they could sign him for the cheap. I mean, who knows? But
no, I can't believe we haven't talked about Deivi Garcia.
Deivi Garcia, he's been in witness protection for the past year.
Future looking like for Deivi?
And that's another one, another rookie that we heard so much, and no, we're not trading him for this player. No, untouchable. And hope he doesn't turn out to be another Clint Frazier, another Andujar. Where's he? I've been calling for him since last year. You're telling me that Deivi Garcia, when we have bullpen issues, couldn't come in here? Like we mentioned earlier in the stream, we were talking about the Rays. They bring their young players and put them in the bullpen, and they make them a starting pitcher years later. But they start off at the bullpen to get major league experience. The Yankees should be doing that. Hopefully they learn, and we saw a little bit of that with Luis Gil. We saw Stephen Riding. Don't forget that young man. They elevated him from Double-A now he's on the 40-man roster. So they're thinking good stuff. And he came up and he was very impressive. And stuff off like that. Let's see. Let's see what the Yankees do there. What's your thoughts, Z, on that?
Yeah, my thoughts are. I mean, obviously they added him to the 40-man roster, so that they see something in his development that they're really happy with, and obviously they see something in Deivi Garcia's development that they're not happy with. And so I think that's why I brought up Deivi Garcia. I think his future with the Yankees is in major jeopardy, and this is a huge season for him to try to break out and make this team. A huge spring, huge off season, but we got other guys in the wings, like you said. Luis Gil. We got other young guys. And
Clark Schmidt. There you go. I remember the name now. Clark Schmidt.
We got some young guys that are they're hoping that can be a dominant piece for us. So we'll see. It's going to be. That's what I just. Like I said about the youth movement earlier. You want to see competition for everything. Nothing's given. And that's iron sharpens iron, and that's what helps create great baseball and great competition. As long as it's healthy and it doesn't hurt the locker room and the clubhouse, then I'm okay with whoever wins the competition for making the big league team.
Yeah, I think with Deivi Garcia, I had a theory, and I said it. I mentioned it last year in the watch along. I think Deivi Garcia just doesn't want to be in the minors. He was with the big ball club. He started a playoff game for the Story franchise Yankees. Despite the fact that you got pulled for 1 inning, whatever that's whatever. You are talented. You were high praised by the organization. Top one of the top pitching prospects, and didn't even get a chance to come back into the majors, and you went back to AAA, and I think that was like a demeanor and a psyche, build down his psyche, because not for nothing. The ballparks are less luxurious in the minor leagues. The lighting, the road trips, the cities that they play in. There's nothing wrong with Wilkes-Barre or all the other minor league AAA cities. There's nothing wrong with it. But the way they travel, they don't travel, luxurious. Sometimes they have the per diem money for their food isn't the same as in the major league club. All the accommodations that there is in the big clubs to the minor leagues it's different. And he experienced that, and he's like, I don't want to be. It's like I don't want to be here. I want to be in the major. And maybe that's something that affected Deivi Garcia. Who knows? Let's wait for Hugh.
As positive that you can look forward to as a Yankee fan is like it is like bright, at least like with some pitchers, and most importantly Dominguez. It's just a matter of like you said, that it's just a matter of like where you want to is where they're most comfortable with. Like Severino, I'll be honest with you, more better and comfortable coming out of the bullpen than he does as a starter. And I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way, but he just feels more dominant as a receiver.
It was injuries. Because he was dominant as a starter. I mean, but the thing is, you can't ramp him back up because it's not like one of those guys where he doesn't throw hard and then all of a sudden he's in the bullpen and he's throwing harder because he doesn't have to save his stuff. Luis Severino has a violent delivery and has violent velocity on all his pitches. So after Tommy John, you can't just expect him to go out there and throw 95, 96 miles an hour for 7 innings. You need to work him into it, and that's what they were doing. He'll be a starter eventually. It's not if, it's when.
Okay.
It's not that they're going to keep him in the bullpen. I don't think, because he was.
No, I don't think so. I think he'll be a starter. I think he wants to make starter money, and I think he's going to be a starter. You're right with that, Z. I think Luis Severino will be a starter next year. But now it's injury. Let's hopefully he don't have any setback, hamstring, or or other arm soreness or whatever the case. Hopefully he's ready to go. Not too much of a pitching limits. Just maybe the Yankees might want to implement a 6-man rotation. Who knows? Just to keep him fresh and so forth. I think they should have done that when we had Tanaka, but that's for another story for another day. For that, but with that said, guys, let's get our final thoughts. It's getting a little close to bedtime, late time, and give us your final thought. Heel, give us your thoughts on what to look for. Our next podcast. Do you think some of these free agents will still be here, or will we still be knee deep in the lockout and going back and forth? What's your thought, Heel?
You want me to go since he's having technical difficulties? Or
I think most
never
definitely
mind.
some of the free agents was definitely. I think the Yankees will.
Heel,
I'm telling you.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
Gio has technical difficulties. Hopefully, we'll get him back up before to say goodnight. Let's see if he's back. Go ahead, Z. Give me your final thoughts, and we'll try to wrap it up.
All right. I think that the lockout's going to be long, little. It's going to drag out a little bit in the off season. I think they get it right before opening day, and I think they get it right at least a month or two before opening day. That way, they can get the rest of the free agents signed, paid. Teams figured out, give them some time. But look for this lockout if it does go as long as I think it does, to have an effect on every team. For not getting the full off season and not getting all that. Look for some sloppy baseball the first 50 games of next year. With the uncertainty and with all the player movement, chemistry is a real thing. So, I mean, it's gonna be a fun season for baseball next year. All teams.
It is. It is. With that said, good. Maybe that's why they didn't do all these changes. They want to keep everything, all the players, under contract and as together because they think they haven't. Maybe they think it's going to be a long lockout, and they want to keep the team as comfortable as possible with the chemistry wise, clubhouse wise, and that's probably why the Yankees haven't done that much plethora move. He'll give us your final thoughts before we say goodnight.
Yeah, sorry. I thought it was like technical difficulties, but apparently I was muted. I don't know. Whatever the case is, yeah, I think the Yankees will eventually sign someone. It's just going to take some patience, and I think a lot of free agents. It might be smart or it might be dumb. We'll see. I think they're going to wait for the lockout, but I'll be honest with you. My gut feeling is contracts are going to be a lot cheaper because you know a lot of the good ones will pretty much be gone by now. But you can argue they might be more expensive depending on the free agent. And I just hope there isn't a lockout. If there is, I just hope it's gone within like a week or two.
Yep, I agree.
It
We
can't be
shall.
that hard to come to an agreement, to satisfy, especially players, because yeah,
Yeah,
and
I think one of the
and on
tickets
top of
there is
that, like next year, like regardless of what we said in here, like it's gonna next year's gonna. And by the way, I just want to end this properly. Can I end this? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Can
So
anyone hear me?
no, we're gonna end the stream here because we're having a lot of technical
There we go.
difficulties, and we'll talk to you next time on that. So we'll thank you so much,
There we
Gil. Thank you, Z. We'll catch you on the next one here on the Brahma Strike Back podcast. Have a good night, folks.